What is up, dogs? It's your boy, Mike Mason, here for another episode of Torch Stock or Glass Central Station, whatever you want to call it. We're here to do it. I have a very, very special crew with me today. I want to take a moment to introduce my lovely co-host, Carrie Strope. Carrie,
Cheers.
cheers indeed. Yeah, tell them what you're about. What have you been up to in the studio lately? That sort of thing.
Yeah, well, some of you saw I got in the studio a couple days ago while Mike was doing some polls and practiced my lensing of the eye mellies because I got some mosaic projects that I've got coming up. The glass dress is a year out now, so I got to start getting that together. And yeah, that's what's on my radar right now.
All right. All right. That's what's up. That's what's up. And you guys, we have a very special guest with us, Chaka, the Iceman,
What's
Christian.
up?
Yeah,
How we
man.
doing?
It's a pleasure to have you, man. Gosh, I,
Thanks
I
for having me.
remember meeting you years ago when we took that Kiva Ford class together, and I've kind of been in
Yeah,
awe since. And
yeah.
yeah, man. So, dude, would you take just a moment, tell the homies where you're based out of, where they can find your work, and then we'll do this thing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm in Portland, Maine. So up at the top of the East Coast. And yeah, I'm just having a blast here in quarantine. I've been able to get into the studio here and there. I have a solo studio, so I don't really have to worry too much about social distancing and all that stuff. It's already kind of been going on this whole time.
I got you. All right. Well, very good, very good. And yeah, man, you're known for this, winter theme. Do you have a name for this style that, as you call it, or are you just all the everything ice,
I
baby?
have a I have like a lot of different techs. So I do the blizzard tech, which is all the snowflake stuff, and the
Yeah.
wig wags for the wind. And then I've been doing this thing called glacier tech for a while, where I kind of put like chunks of ice on the piece. And I do the ice cubes.
Yep.
I've been doing it kind of all started with penguins, and then I've like recently been getting into this thing called ice cave tech, where I use a texturing tool to create kind of like this scallops look on the glass.
Hmm.
It's pretty interesting to play with, and it's really all in the service of kind of like making the glass look like ice. I think like glass is the best medium to represent ice. There's just because it's a clear ceramic, it just has all these amazing possibilities with it. And I've been doing it for 16 years now, so it's been really cool to kind of like get to delve into these concepts and these ideas and get my skills together and take a lot of these classes over the years. And yeah, it was awesome. Meeting you at Keep Before It's class years back, man. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's kind of crazy thinking about how much time has passed and how much things have changed.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I mean, not so much for you who was balling out back then pretty hard, but for me, man, it was that was so early in my glass life, and I wasn't doing any of this stuff that I'm doing now. Covering our industry like this. Speaking of covering our industry, we do have this demo that we filmed at East
Yeah.
Coast Melt back in 2018, actually. And it's like we're
Yep.
going back in time here lately. That I'm really excited to share. And you mentioned the penguins. It's a penguin rig. And yeah, let's go ahead and
Mhm.
actually pop that off because we'll have quite a bit of time to randomly chat. Glass Central Station, baby, that's us. Here to provide this ESPN type, comprehensive coverage for our industry. These companies that we're going to take just a moment to acknowledge, they're the ones who pitch in every month and help me get to all of these shows. Um, there's just no way to get over the financial wall of flying all over the country and being away from home for a week and a half at a time or whatever it'll be. They
Right.
make it possible. So yeah, not to make a big deal about it, but and it kind of is a big deal. And some of you guys are pitching in at torchpass.org. It means the world. It really is helping me see this moment through and allowing me to keep sharing this stuff and keep having this party every week. So, yeah, and if you're just part of the audience, man, that's fine too. I really appreciate everyone involved in this community. That's the other part of the secret sauce. It's like, yeah, it takes
Mhm.
money to get around, but it takes a community to enjoy the shit and be positive together. So, this is for y'all, baby. And All right, we're getting too abstract here. Okay, there's some of the stuff you were talking about, that Blizzard tech, and I
Yeah.
think we're just gonna start with a fun little thing. I think Carrie filmed all of this, by the way, so huge shout outs to Carrie. I think here you're
Yeah.
adding some drips to an ice cube. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, I'm adding some drips right there, and just kind of. I'm not sure if that was probably for a collab or something that I was handing off to someone.
Sure.
Um, Melt's always interesting because it's like 1,000 things at once.
Yes, it very
It's
much is. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
pretty crazy. It's like taking orders for collabs. It's like, okay, I'll make that prep in a minute after I'm done with this prep, and
yeah, yeah,
it's just left and right. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah.
This
That
was the first time I did Melt, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, word. It very much is like that, you know. If you're up for it, then you can collaborate with a ludicrous amount of people. And if anybody's not familiar, Melt is a summer camp for glass workers. There's a tent here with over 100 stations for people to throw down. There's a main stage tent where some of the lineup artists are teaching and collaborating as well. And there's everything you could imagine at a summer camp. Now here you have like the body essentially to these rigs. I think each one was a
Yeah.
collaboration. So somebody handed you the prep, and then
Yeah.
you like opened it up. It did like in Calmo for the belly and like took it off axis. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So the white on the belly there was in Comodon, and then I threw it off axis a bit, and then here I'm really just trying to coax it into shape. And this was a collab with Ricky Wreck Glass, who's a
Yeah.
good homie up in upstate New York, and it this here I'm like really just kind of letting the shape sag and just getting it just right, and so they were tricky for a while. I got a lot of good tips from a lot of different people about how to really properly get the shape right, because keeping that in combo from kind of shifting to one side or the other is always tricky.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to develop the steps over a lot of different iterations, and you know I'm pretty happy with how they come out now. I still do them here and there, but it's definitely not. I'm always moving forward with my focus on different things. But yeah, this is. I mean, these are really fun to make. And it's it's a design that I switched from an older design, and anyone who's been following me for a while knows, I used to have this kind of older penguin design, and I switched it into this design because the older design to me just kind of looked a little bit goofier, and it was kind of time to make them a little bit cuter and a little bit kind of more compact, because before I had the beak kind of jutting out off the top of the penguin, and
Okay.
here, and that was the mouthpiece, and here I've made kind of just the top of the head of the penguin the mouthpiece. And so you can see I'm kind of like, yeah, flattening out the bottom in this portion here. And yeah, that's always kind of a tricky one, because you don't want the encamo to go too far under or not far enough under, because it's kind of like gives you a place for where to stick the feet, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, this was a really fun one. I'm basically working with a section of dot box prep from Rec Glass on this one.
Yeah, really, really
Yeah.
pretty fume prep.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cool because it's not. It's like a different kind of dot box. I think he was doing like these dot triangles,
Okay.
and so it's a little bit different than your regular dot box. And I liked that. That kind of spoke to me, because I was like, all right, this is cool. This is like a man after my own heart. Somebody who really likes to change it up. Take a classic thing that everyone's messing around with. Anyone who's messing with fume, tries that out,
Sure.
and um, and just doing something a little bit different to it to give it some signature, to give it a little bit of personal style. And
Yeah.
here I'm actually getting it straight on the rollers, and I started using those rollers right after that Kiva class,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was like, man, that just totally changed the game of like, wow, you can really keep things super super straight, and not have to be like a crazy machine about it. Like, you can actually use these tools and kind of be helped along.
Yeah. No,
And
I
so
completely agree. Came home and bought the exact same one from HP Machine after that class.
Yeah, yeah. No, they love us over at HP Machine. We've given them a lot of business at this point.
Yeah, I've been showing them up over the years. It's really they're nice. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Now
I
you were
actually
saying though.
just I just released a tool from HP Machine that's
Oh, really?
it's just a rod holder. They're actually on my website on chakaglass.com, but it's a rod holder. It's just like weighted enough that, and it's got a bottom to it. It's not like a lot of people drill holes through wood and you know, like have this thing on their bench, but that you can't move it once you've drilled the holes through the bottom because you lift it up and all your prep kind of goes through the holes. So I made this rod holder. I actually had HP Machine do it up for me. So
Wow.
it's nice the connections you make. But yeah, here I'm popping I'm kind of getting like prepping out the mouthpiece, and I'm getting that part ready. And you know, you can see I'm just always flame annealing, and I think a lot of the reason I was doing that during this particular piece was because I was at Melt, and at Melt, like the kiln situation is not. It's great because they provide a lot of kiln space. You know, they really do accommodate you, but you are also in the hands of every other glass blower there who's opening and closing the kiln back and forth, and you don't know if your piece just got cooled off a little bit. So I'm just taking that extra precaution and flame annealing this thing while, you know, getting bits of prep ready. And you know, yeah, like there I've got it in my other hand, and then I'm getting this part ready right here. I think either to transfer it or to stuff it or something like that. But yeah, it's funny. It's been a minute since I've made one of these. Actually, it's probably been like 2 months.
Oh, wow. I thought you were
I've
going to
been
say 2 years or something.
yeah, no, it's been a couple months, but it's like I've been conserving oxygen because of actually the post that you put up
Oh, yeah.
that was saying that they might be rationing oxygen for ventilators because
Well,
of
you know, I
COVID.
can
So
help you with that.
Yeah.
okay, nice. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I got so
No, I was
jealous of everybody who had a system at that point. I was like, oh, they knew what was coming, you know?
the people just had a really good timing. Yeah, I was looking back. I was checking out your Instagram feed to find these old style penguins you were looking at. I really like the new the redesign that you did. A little bit
Yeah.
more elegant.
Yeah, and you know, I gave them wings. You know, the old ones didn't have wings. There was this guy, like Waff Street Glass, who kept like just commenting and being like, they don't have wings. Like, where are the wings?
How are
And
they
it
going to
was so
swim?
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
funny.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I added the tail right there, and you know, sometimes I add a tail, sometimes I don't. It just kind of like, I don't know. I guess it just kind of depends on my mood. But there I'm popping a tail on. That kind of helps stabilize them. And I give it a little pinch. And you know, it's funny because the tail that was something I would do on these little figurine penguins I would make that were. I mean, I started making the penguins like, God, probably like 10 years ago now. You know, and it wasn't rigs. You know, it was little figurines that I would sell at craft shows because I used to do the craft show hustle back in the day, like little gift shows, you know, like, you know, Christmas markets and all sorts of stuff like that. And I'd make these little figurines, and that's kind of what got me into that. And then I made the dabbers, and then after that, I just loved the whole theme of cold. And I thought it was really cool because it contrasts with the hot glass really well. You know, it's like you're making something cold out of hot glass, so that was cool. And of course, like here you can see me. I'm opening up. I'm kind of like thinning out the area where the ring seal is going to go for the perk.
Yeah.
And so I'm really just like dipping in, yeah, and pulling out and dipping in and pulling out and just making sure I'm like thinning out that area. And because I like the hole to pop pretty big and not have a lot of excess glass on the edge. And then
Yeah.
and then this must be like maybe the marble he gave me, the disco explosion or something like that. Or I guess that's another piece of dot box prep. So that might be like
The joint.
stuffing it for the wings. or the joint, or pulling it out for the perk or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah,
'Cause I
yeah.
know-
And I just
yeah.
wanted to piggyback on what you were saying earlier, man, because it's
Uh-huh.
something I've mentioned on the show before, and it's like, man, 99% of the time when I see a fucked up ring seal, it's because they left too much material. And
Yeah.
there's like an
Exactly.
analogy that I like a lot, and it's like when it's like the way I like to think about this. I picked this up, I think, from Preston Hanna, perhaps. He was like, well, what happens when you put a hole in drywall? You know what I mean? Like, there's a fucking ring of drywall sitting on the floor, and that's the same
Right.
concept in glass. The amount that the
Right.
hole needs to be open needs to be removed, and then, when it
Right.
seals together, that way the wall is going to be at this, if the wall is 2 mil
Yeah.
approaching that, it needs to be 2 mil, when it hits, instead of all of a sudden bunching up to 5 or something, like that's fucked up.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And it's
anyways,
interesting because I do a hollow Maria when I make my perk. I do where it's going to seat into the ring seal. Right at that point, I do a hollow. I tend to do like a slightly hollow Maria, so that when you heat it, when you seat it, and then you start heating around that ring seal to get it all to seal all the way around, you end up getting that hollow Maria will actually kind of shrink in a little bit, and it will actually pull on the wall, and there's like a tension there that will just make everything super Gucci. You know what I mean? Like, just
yeah,
it'll just kind of pull. Everything's pulling together, and whatever little tiny bit of excess glass maybe I left there to melt in will kind of take up whatever space that hollow Maria shrank in. And so and I only learned that after so many times of doing it and kind of like having that aha moment and being like, oh, that's how this, it will behave a certain way when you do it right, where it'll all just come together and you don't have to sit there and like torch the crap out of it and try to disperse all that glass.
Sure.
So
yeah.
but yeah, that's a really clutch move, and it looks like I'm getting this all prepped out to shape the joint and everything. Yeah, you guys did a really good job of just getting the angle right here. You know what I mean? Like, over someone's shoulder is always cool, but this is a great angle. This
Cheers,
really,
Yeah.
cheers. Yeah, awesome.
There's times when it's awesome to be able to jump behind an artist's shoulder, and if everything is fine when it's ideal, we'll do that. But I find that it's better to kind of set up in a stationary position, from one of these angles in, and it captures like 95% of it, and sometimes it's just not possible to jump around. Now here you're sizing out this joint with like a brass reamer, is that right?
Yeah, I really like using the brass reamers. The graphite reamers, I feel like are almost too smooth in a way. Like, I kind of like the way the brass catches a little bit. It's weird.
It opens up that channel a little differently, and
Yeah, it does. It has a different feeling to it. And a lot of times, like, I'm not the best at making joints, but I definitely like right there, I'm testing it out with a glass joint. It was cool because Evan Shore sent me the 5 mil tool for
nice.
making 5 mil, because he's trying to do that 5 mil show. I think
I saw that.
We'll have to reschedule at this point, but
Sure.
reschedule again at this point. But and he gave me he sent me a little tiny 5 mil glass joint as well.
Huh.
And I was like really happy about that, because I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to really know if it's a good fit without that little joint, And my thing is, I like to soot it up and get basically graphite on the end of it. I mean, that's basically what soot is. It's carbon, and so it acts as this great like kind of lubricant for when you want to seat that glass joint and make sure, and not have it stick, or get stuck in there. That is like the most frustrating thing in the world when it gets stuck in there and you're just like banging it on the bench the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. Wax can be a little touchy too, man. You know, if you have too much of it
Yeah,
and it drips in there all of a sudden, it can make that weird like silver coating that happens. Like all sort. Like
yeah,
I like the sip method too. I like that.
yeah. And of course, I wax up the brass, but I don't like to. I don't like to get too much with the wax because exactly that happens. It gets all in there, and then it smokes up in there, and
Yeah,
it just kind of like shocks the glass a little bit. So,
sure.
and then here, I guess I'm probably using this to. I'm probably going to stretch the rest of this out for the perk on it. And I normally do like a 2-hole or 3-hole perk on
Okay.
these. I think lately I've been doing just little 2-hole perks. It's really funny because I mean I come from the days of doing like bubblers where we would just have a piece of 9 mil going down, and you wouldn't pop any holes. It would just be the open piece of 9 mil,
Okay.
just flame polished. And I was always good with one hole. It's like it's just like all you really need. But the two hole thing is kind of nice. It has a different purr to it, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I've always thought of percolation as like different frequencies, and if you have like two holes, they're always going to be slightly different. I mean, you can get them kind of perfectly the same size, but I kind of like when they're slightly different because it's like two tones that interfere and make a third tone, and it gives a nice purr to the piece. So yeah, so that's here. I'm stretching it all out and just letting the heat do its job, and yeah, you know I I like to do a lot of the stuff in the air. You saw me like marvering the joint a bit on the graphite marver, but I also like to do a lot of air marvering because it doesn't stress the glass out. And if you're having to shape something and shape something and shape something, the more you cool it on the marver, if I keep cooling it on the marver, it starts to, like, maybe at the end there, I give it a little bit of a shape on the marver just as it's cooling. But I don't like to rage on the marver too much, especially with my Blizzard tech. I learned the hard way. Um, yeah, here I'm doing the Maria, and I probably end up doing a slightly, I kind of do like a thick enough wall that it's not going to be a problem to make it hollow, but I like to puff into it a little bit. Yeah, so there I'm puffing into it, giving it that hollow Maria. But yeah, with my Blizzard tech, I learned the hard way. If you over marver blue stardust, when it gets really worked on the surface, it starts doing this weird surface, not scuzz, but like surface frost, like just surface stress, and so it's really nice to be able to kind of just air marver things. I'm really big into that, and like I'll marver like as a last move. But I really like to air marver most of my stuff and just not stress it out because it goes through so much working and so many. I also like to bench cool a lot because things go through so many kind of stress cycles, and if it just sits in the kiln, it's kind of in motion in a way, even a 1050, it's still kind of active, and so I really like to have my prep be like worked and hot as little as possible. That's like a big part of like just my working philosophy.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
So,
sense.
and then yeah, and then I
I
think here's where I'm gonna pop my holes.
Yeah, yeah, doing like the pig nose or whatever style. Oh shit, Josh
Yeah,
Ford in the
exactly.
background.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny to see all the homies around and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
Melt is such a blast, It's
yeah,
just everyone's in the groove, and you just kind of like take a break and check on your homies and see what people have been up to, and check on things happening, and then get back to it. And it's all really exciting because there's just so much getting done
yep.
at this event.
I do, man.
Um,
It's crazy. It's been a real honor to help capture this event over the years, and we've shared a tremendous amount of cool things, just like this, and it's all thanks to artists like you who are like, yeah, of course, man, stick a camera in my face. It's all good.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
here, do you tag that in? I take it, and you're gonna bridge it up. Is that right?
Yeah. So I tagged it in, and now I'm just like using my window here to just, and I normally use 4 mil bridges. You know, I learned that from Herb Crehan back in the day. He used to work with Com and BMFT out in Arizona, and then he moved to
Nice.
Boston. He would use 4 mil bridges for everything. I would use like 8 and 6 mil bridges, and then I realized how much glass I was wasting
Hmm.
and how unnecessary that was really for most stuff I was doing. So like and I never really used 4 mil before that. And that, I mean, this was years ago, but you know, 4 mil bridges are totally where it's at because it actually has like enough flexibility to it, right? That you can you can heat it up a little if you need to shift something. You know, if you've got
Oh,
everything
interesting.
around the steel, but you need to maybe shift the perk a little bit. You can heat up that with even just a hand torch and get a little bit of movement out of it. Whereas with like a 6 or even you know, especially with an 8 mil bridge, it's like, you know, just impossible. And then I'm using like the edge of the hand torch of the head of the hand torch to like press the glass in there a little bit.
Sure.
And so here, like I love using. This is something Scotty Mickle would do a lot that I definitely adopted. It's funny. I taught him a goblet lesson back in the day for some weed in exchange, and he you know, I watched him grow. It's just a beast of a glass blower. That's Liquid Glass Arts, and you know, I've just watched him like just, you know, really take hold of his own voice and make some amazing work. And he is all about that. You know, use the, you know, while you're hand torching, you know, use the Bunsen on your regular torch. It doesn't hurt it at all to just run propane. You
Sure.
know, so I do that a lot in my work. I'll take full knuckles, you know, these thick knuckles of tube prep, and I will hold it in my hand and turn on that flame. If I don't have a kiln around, or if I'm just demoing or something, and I will heat an entire knuckle up to working temperature and pull it down and everything with that flame. You know what I mean? Like I'll get it to that, you know, hot enough state where I can then heat the edge of that knuckle and, you know, attach a tube, and so that flame can like do so much. It's incredible. And so here I'm just kind of like puffing the wall out as I go around, and just like when I puff, I'm actually letting air out of the side of my mouth a lot of the time. Like I'm it's like this thing where I'm gauging the pressure coming back
Mm.
at me, kind of, you know what I mean? Because you can
Yeah, yeah.
feel how much resistance there is, you know, where it's like if nothing's moving and you blow into it, there's nothing's giving. There's no give. There's no, you know, there's no more breath going into it to kind of fill that space. And so I you know, I do a lot of when I'm puffing so as not to like blow some big, you know, bubble, you know, trash bubble out. I
Yeah.
always like to like just, you know, let a little bit of air as like a relief out the side of my mouth as I'm puffing. And so it's like these little micro puffs. That's like how I work these seals, is like, you know, go around with tons of heat and just really little micro puffs to let the glass, you know, come out, and then let the heat of it come back in. And then, you know, I'm really letting the heat settle it into a certain wall. But, you know, if that wall goes too far in and it looks weird, I'm gonna use pressure to puff that wall back out, and then just use heat to even up the wall weight. Um, and I'm just really careful because this, you know, this I've got that, you know, Bunsen flame going, so I've got all day. I don't have to stress about this seal, you know, or the rest of the piece cooling off around this seal. And I've had plenty of times when I've had things crack, you know, circular radius around a seal like perfectly, realizing like I let the whole piece get too cold, you know.
Yeah,
So
of course. Been there.
having that Bunsen flame is just like so key. And then and also like just waiting, right? Like I'm heating it and then I'm waiting, and I'm waiting for it to set a little bit more before I keep moving. And a lot of that is like I don't want that internal perk to shift on me too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want it to be like sideways by the time I'm done with this thing. So
Yeah. Especially like right where it's hot, if that shifts around, it can kind of like almost tag a little bit itself on that wall, and
yeah,
then that's the end of it.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
can reach a point. Yeah, it can reach a point of no return. Sometimes it like shifts over, and then when you shift it back, it's like this curly noodle, and it's like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
nice and straight and flush anymore. And even though it looks like it is, you take a closer look, and there's like weird internal stress on that thing and weird
Sure.
frosting on it, and so here I'm just really being careful, and I think I use a Hornet tip on that hand torch, and I think that's like a $23 like piece of junk China torch, that
Okay.
hand torch. My Smiths, I would just beat the crap out of my Smiths.
Uh-huh.
And the funny thing is, like, I think I bought like 4 of these really crappy torches from some site, and they've lasted longer. Like, maybe I've just learned how to treat them better at this point, but they're so stupid because the oxygen and propane on them is like reversed. So
Oh.
I'll collab with people, and they'll be like, "Oh, let me use your hand torch or whatever," and I'm like,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Wait, what the hell is up with this hand torch?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah." So there I'm using the actual, like, I'm heating up an area and then using the neck of the torch to pull the glass out and then hit it again to make the separation to the bridge. Um,
Nice.
and I'll use that like top part. So I'm kind of melting in that top part, but I'll use that to bridge to for like, I think for the marble that I'll put on, and for like when I put the wings on and stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I'm basically just making sure that top section is nice and kind of flush to the just to the way I want it. Oh, see, there it goes a little too far,
Yeah.
and I've opened it up now. So I'm sure that was a mistake. So like I'll probably go back in and oh, okay, yeah, no,
No, it's
it
totally
just I wanted
planned.
to,
Oh, look
Yeah.
at this. So you're
yeah.
going in from the top to hit the inside of that
So
seal. Something must have
that's
bothered
like
you.
yeah. So something was bugging me there because I normally don't have to do that, but I think it's
Gotcha.
because I think it's because it's dot box fume. I didn't want this. I wanted this prep to really, like with any fume prep, I'm super careful with it. I remember doing a collab with Gasp, and he was like, "Yeah, you don't want to fry this stuff because it'll, the fume will basically just turn white. You'll burn it
Hmm.
out." And
Gotcha.
so I think I was using that consideration when doing this part.
So then are
And
you using an oxidizing flame or like somebody
yeah,
in chat is
I'm
asking like, can you
definitely.
mess it up?
Oh,
Like how would you mess that up with
yeah.
the flame?
Mess up the ring seal.
No, the fume. Sorry.
The pattern.
Oh. You know what it would be? It would just be overheating that prep, and like, because inside the glass, it's not even a surface thing, so it's not even whether it's not really so much the atmosphere. It's really the amount of heat you're raging on it, and if you just get that super super soupy, I don't have a ton of experience with fume, but I definitely have burnt it out a lot by doing that, by getting it too soupy and not kind of just using gradual heat. So really, to handle that stuff, the best way to do it is heat it and then like take it out of the flame and let the heat sink into those layers of just however many millimeters the wall weight is, and then go back and heat it again. And by doing that, you're not overloading it with heat,
Hmm.
and it's really allowing, but you're still able to deliver tons of heat to it, but not overload it all at any one given time. Kind of like our healthcare system right now with COVID. It's like
Yeah.
Right.
you want it to
Right.
come in waves, right? You want it to come in waves. You don't want it all at once. It'll burn that fume out, and so
Sure.
um, it's kind of an interesting thing. It's kind of a thing I learned from Lauren Stump, actually, when I took his
Oh
class at
shit.
Corning.
Nice.
Was when he would stretch millie out, he did the craziest things where he would push the millie together, like to test how much heat control he had. He would like push it together before pulling it, just to show us that like this thing was totally hot and happy all the way through, and he could push it together. But then when he pulled it, it didn't do any distorting to the milli, and it was because nothing was inside there colder than it was hot, or hotter than it was cold, and there was nothing bunching up against something else and then, you know, smearing when he would pull it. It was all so uniformly hot that nothing was everything was moving together and nothing was actually disagreeing. And so I use that a lot when I do all sorts of things. I mean, whenever I'm even just pulling a little tiny bit of milli a little bit smaller, I do the heat in waves. You know, a little bit of heat, take it out, keep turning it. A little bit more heat, take it out, keep turning it. Even more heat, take it out. And with soft glass, you really have to do that, because with soft glass, you can heat it to the point where the outside is super gooey and the inside is still pretty much cold. And you've got an outer blob that's like kind of working its way and dancing around a cooled off core. And so that's why you have to let the heat sink in while letting the surface cool, which keeps the kind of the shape of everything. And so here I put a little bit of a little dollop of glass on, and then eased this whole this whole noodle over so that I have a place to attach my joint. So this is kind of part of this design. I used to just have a joint kind of come right out of the side, but you know, if you fill up too much water, it's going to get into the joint, you know, and that's not really that cool. You don't really want like a wet banger. I have this noodle come up a little bit so that you can put a little bit more water into this piece. You know, the cool thing about these penguins is like they shred and you don't need much water in them, but you know, people have their preferences, right? And so sometimes they really want to fill it up. And so there I just pop a hole, and it's kind of nice to pop holes in that Bunsen flame, because if you pop any bubble trash, it hits that Bunsen flame and it can't really float off. The Bunsen flame will actually get it to shrivel up a little bit more and make it solid enough that it's not really floating light at that point. You know, it's not light enough. It gets it to contract. So that's another thing. I love popping holes, you know, with my hand torch, but with that in that flame atmosphere of what up?
Yeah. Knows how to play to the camera.
Yeah, I do. It's true. I played in a classic rock cover band for like 6 years or something like that. So I got a little bit of a performer in me, you know.
No
Nice.
shit. What do you play?
I play drums.
Okay.
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, I still do. So yeah, no, I love it. And so again, thanks for the opportunity for letting me perform, you know.
Of course, man. This is great. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for being
Thanks
here.
for letting me stick a camera on you for like hours.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love it.
Now
so there I'm like,
yeah, cold sealed up.
Yeah, I did a nice little cold seal. I make a joke about cold seal crew. You know, all the homies.
Yeah.
All the homies and ladies out there who like to do their cold seals. You know, it's I gotta say it's a great technique, because you can just get real like tight with things because you don't have this tool inside the joint, you know. And when you get really good at it, you could do stuff like what Kurt B does, where he'll cold seal to the neck of a piece, and finish the whole piece on this other side of it, and then hit the cold seal, just give it a tap, and it's mouthpieced. You know what I mean? All you got to do is, you know, polish the top now, and it's mouthpieced. And you know, if you rage too hard on the cold seal, you're going to end up with, you might crack off more than you wanted to. And so I like to wait about 5 seconds for the surface of the skin of the glass to cool off enough. And I like to have the cold seal hotter, the actual tool that I'm using to hold the joint hotter than the joint itself, right? But I'm really just heating like the edge of the joint, and I'm really, kind of raging the edge of the tool. And normally I just use like a piece of flared 12-7 or something, and I'll flare it on the edge of my marver, and that's good enough. You don't have to put a ton of time into prepping that tool out. And then here I'm like, basically flatten. I'm watching the YouTube now as well, so there's a little bit of lag, but I'm flattening out that bottom and then puffing and flattening and puffing and flat. So I'm kind of working the wall weight a bit there. And so, and then I go in and I puff out that hole. And I'm really just trying to that's why I love the hand torch. Like you can just heat that one tiny little area to puff that hole out. So it's funny. This is all kind of coming together quick. And I guess the piece must be in the kiln at this point, right? And then I take it out and then seat that sucker. So this is always, I've gotten more comfortable with it, but it's always a tricky thing because if the cold seal pops off here, you're in no man's land. And if that thing's really hot, it lumps over or something. So that can always be a little bit tricky. But yeah, and then here I reattach, to the mouthpiece to bring over a bridge and then bridge that in. And again, I've, 90% gotten a fuse to the edge of that noodle to the joint, but you might as well go in there and make sure that's all sealed and it's not going to crack on you. Mm-hmm. So here's where I go in and just, really make sure that's good. And it's funny, a lot of people use I don't know if it's the whisper tip or what it is, but I really like the Hornet tip on the hand torch because it's so small. You can get into these a lot of heat into these little areas versus with these wider tips, it's always going to have a certain amount of width to it, and you can't really get that pinpoint sharp flame on there. And for a move like this, I love that because I don't want really the whole joint to get incorporated into that noodle. I just want that little bottom part to get sealed in. I don't want the whole thing to kind of become one whole blob, Yeah. So again, I'm doing a lot of that paint brushing and just brushing back and forth, and then giving it, you can kind of see my mouth and just giving it these little puckers, just little bits, letting a little bit of air out of the side of my mouth as I'm doing it. And I'm gauging the pressure from that. The worst thing you can do is just blow into it with all your might. It's just you're really just gauging. And if it's not puffing out enough, it needs more heat, not more pressure, yeah. And that's how I kind of operate with that is really to let the glass do its thing. You've got the heat. You got more heat than you could ever need. I mean, I could disintegrate this rig with my big flame in a second, and so you might as well use that to your advantage and use the fact that you've got heat on your side versus trying to rage into this thing and blow into it like crazy. So here it looks like I'm prepping out some of the stuff so here is where I make the feet. And to make the feet the same size, what I do is before I just take, a rod of glass and gather it up into a blob, I actually take the same rod of glass. So I was using Terps for this particular rig. And I take the same rod of glass because I know it's pretty much the same 7 mil thickness all the way through. I mean, when you get a pound of color, there's a lot of variations, but I try to use the same exact rod. And I cut a piece that's 4 inches long or 3.5 inches long, but the next piece I cut is exactly that size as well. And those are both going to be my 2 feet. And so I know they're approximately the same exact amount of glass, plus or minus a negligible amount, And so then I'll take that, connect it on each side to some 6 mil or 8 mil, and then just gather it up. And then I get it into a certain kind of shaped blob ball, and then here I'm flattening it out. And that is the most consistent way of making matching components because you're using the same exact amount of mass to make each one. And if you're doing a really big project and you need a lot of things to be exactly the same amount of glass, you can do that all before you even melt it by basically either weighing it or measuring out the length of the stick you're using, because that tends to just always give me the same exact size ball. And then once I make 1 foot, I know the thickness I've kind of flattened it to, and in general, I like to flatten these two at a certain probably like around 5 or 6 mil thickness. And there I just give it a snip, and that's something, you know, I've seen a lot of people do, like when Elbow makes certain components, when he's sticking the, you know, the kind of like fins on like a Stegosaurus or something, he'll cut it, you know, just to make it just right. And yeah, so I guess maybe that's orange crayon I was using straight up.
Yeah,
And that's a tricky one.
we might have switched to the other one's feet or something there. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
It's
No,
possible.
that
There's
must be
two
it,
rigs.
because that other one was a transparent color. So
Yeah.
yeah, this must be the switch to the other rig I was working in. This was the rig with Frit
Yeah,
that I
Anthony
made.
Charles, man, the homie. Look at
Yeah,
this fucking
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's all his re-wig sections. Yeah, this was a really
Gorgeous.
fun one. He's a good homie of mine. He's like my bigger brother doppelganger. You
What?
know,
Aw,
people mistake us all the time. It's really funny.
really? Huh.
Oh yeah,
Interesting.
because we're both, you know, these bearded gentlemen. You know, so.
Sure. I mean, they don't mistake
I
me
bet
for you
Chaka
guys, but
gets.
whatever, you know.
I bet Chaka gets mistaken for that Nerf dude too, right?
Well, I doubt it.
Yeah.
It's like these guys are all dapper, and I'm just a motherfucker looking like the Nerf guy, but whatever.
Oh, okay.
Just play.
So
Yeah, like,
what I've been doing with these feet actually is it's interesting. I got so sick of having to dance around orange crayon because of the hand torch. The hand torch would sometimes get a tiny little bit of it to bubble. So what I started doing was gathering up the ball of, you know, approximately that 4 inches, or even maybe less, because I'd be coating it, gathering up like 3 inches, and then I'd take like a little piece of terps, and I'd stretch it into like 4 mil, and then I would like wrap it around that ball. So I'd make, and that would basically protect the orange crayon, and then I'd melt that wrap all the way down, and and then squash it, and then cut it, you know, like switch to the other side with that punny, and then cut it. And you'll notice I didn't punny to the end of the edge of the foot. I punny to the bottom of the foot, and then like curl that punny around. You know what I mean? Because that way, like if there's any weird little bit of clear on there, it's going to be on the bottom of the foot. You're not going to see it in the finished piece, you know, as it stands.
nice, clever.
So that was something I kind of like just figured out from, you know, having the edge of the foot get some weird little punny scar or something. I mean, I'm kind of crazy about how I do this a lot. In fact, I've been making a lot of marbles this week, and something I do when I finish my marbles, I don't like to have a punny on the front of the marble, because when you crack it off, it's going to leave the tiniest bit of glass, and when you melt that in, it's going to leave a bump, because that glass is not the same as the peeled glass. Normally I use skimmed clear for my marbles, so I try to make it like super pure, you know, virgin glass that's as little touched by flame and dust and exposure to anything as possible before it becomes a marble. And so I'll actually pull a little bit of glass out of the front of the marble, finish the back side of the marble, and punny up to the back side of the marble, and then round out, like pull that glass out of the front of the marble, round out the front of the marble, and then not have to repunny to it again. Because I've had so many weird little like I swore that I heated the crap out of the top of the marble, but then I look at it the next day and I'm looking at it, you know, looking at the fluorescent light reflection in my studio, and there's this little dimple, this little like tiny, you know, where you can see it's not a perfectly smooth surface. And so it's little things like that. But on the bottom of a lot of these feet of these penguin, you'll see a little, you know, like I heat the crap out of it, you can see, but a lot of times you'll see, especially on the orange crayon, you'll see like maybe a little bit of clear was left on there or something, you know what I mean?
Maker's mark or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. A little maker's mark. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Hey,
And
have you
so,
seen the Miles Parker's marble fingers? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like two little graphite cups on like a pair of tongs, so you can hold the marble with two little graphite things, and then there's a third one.
oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's got a third one that matches. So you hold it in the two tongs, right? So like you got your marble in two little graphite cups, and then there's a third cup on a stick, so you can hit your last spot and use the third cup to round it out while it's being held in the
Hmm.
tongs. Yeah, it's called
Oh, wow. That's a
yeah, yeah.
game changer.
Dude, right? It's
Yeah.
they're called Miles Parkers. It's like Marvelous Fingers or something. There's a group about it. I'll try and remember to link you up to it. But if you ask Miles Parker, he teaches at Corning and shit. Real cool guy. He's White Snoop. He says everybody calls him because he kind of looks like White Snoop Dogg. So,
That's hilarious.
anyways, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get too far off track here, but I had to give a shout out. It sounded like that might be the tool
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah, I'm checking out the chat right now.
Oh yeah,
This is pretty awesome.
chat's pretty lit,
Everyone's
man.
Yeah, everyone's so cool. Yeah,
Aw,
thanks for watching, everybody.
yeah, man.
And yeah, what up to all the homies out there? Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, cheers, man. This is we've been doing this for many years now, like probably 6 years or something. And many of these people have been having this Tuesday night party with us for so long, and it really is. It's what's made all of this possible, and this community that's grown around this. It's made it possible to open this community up, and in doing so,
Yeah,
kind of make this a smaller world for all of us. And thank you so much for
yeah.
being part of it, man. It's great.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for creating this amazing platform.
Uh,
Yeah, like it's really cool. I'm seeing people are saying like this. One person is saying I don't use the blowpipe as much. Is it due to the type of artwork? And I think yeah, it's like I don't, or maybe they're referring to like the blow tube, um, or using just yeah, like using a kind of a blow hose. It's funny. I don't know if you've had this experience, but sometimes when I'm working really big, like, or I'm in commoing or something, or I'm working a big chunk of glass and heating it up, sometimes if I have a blow hose on it, it like creates weird back pressure,
yes.
you
Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So,
I bought like the larger Fire Kiss swivel. He makes like two models, the one that goes in like the 1/4 inch tubing, and then he sells like a bigger tubing and a bigger swivel that's supposed to help with that.
oh,
Yeah, but
nice. Yeah.
but that said, and it's when I'm like trying to handle up to like large blanks. If I want to do a giant 60 mil encasement or something like that, and I've got a blow tube up
Mm,
to a giant section of that, it's like some parts
yeah.
of it are so cold, and then if you have the whole thing hot as it starts to cool, the pressure swings are so extreme, and the
Right.
restriction in the blow tube enhances that effect. And yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think I know exactly what you're getting at. It makes it very tricky to seal up to those big sections.
Yeah. Yeah. It really constricts down to, so far that it's hard for the glass to do that. I mean, I was making something with a bit of blizzard tech, and like I was heating it and heating it and heating it, and it wouldn't work its way down, and it's because I had this blow tube on it. I pulled it off, and the whole thing just like collapsed just the way I wanted it to. It was like, oh yeah,
Okay.
it's creating weird back pressure. So that's the thing, is like I really only use my blow hose for when I need to do like a ring seal, or just little areas where I'm going to need the tiniest bit of pressure to just puff out and get the wall just right, or like if I've ever you know done some bit of tubing kind of coming out, and need to even out some of it on the outside of a rig or whatever, and make it just look perfect or give it a perfect curve. That's when I'll use a blow hose, because then you can get that fine kind of adjustment without having to like bring the rig all the way around and have to blow into the end of it. But it's really like I really think like each tool is to be used for the application. People overuse tools all the time. Like some people use their lathe for like everything, and it's like you don't even need to spend all this time chucking up into the lathe when you can just make that Maria by hand or whatever it is. And so I think it's interesting to see the different working philosophies that people have, because some people really get attached to their tools, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, well, your tools are only as good as your skills, right? So
Yeah.
You know, that's a big thing. But yeah, this is great, having the chat and, you know, being able to, um, you know, see what everyone's kind of noticing and commenting on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's nice. We've kind of, kept this thing a little more low key. We're not like taking big dab sessions in the beginning and trying to like cultivate an audience of nothing against
Right.
it. It's just this is a
Yeah.
show for glass makers, not necessarily, just strictly
Right.
consumers and nothing against those. If you're like a glass a glass collector and you're here to learn about the art, that's great. But if you're here to like watch us talk about the terp of the week or whatever, like that's not going to be this
Yeah.
channel.
A
And
different.
it's kept it
Yeah.
to where the crowd in the chat is generally the same crowd you're going to find at like a glass event. It's all of your fellow glass workers who are here to
Yeah.
watch one of their peers do something awesome, as opposed to. And don't get me wrong, I more lately I've been cutting shorter edits for people that we film so that they can use that on their Instagram and have some cool footage to share. Not to
Yeah.
get too far off track though, here you're adding like the facial details. Is that right? It's about to get a beak.
Yeah. Yeah, I just popped on the eyes. So the way I do the eyes is I pull down a little bit of black. Normally I think I use jet black, and you know, I don't just go right off the rod. I like to actually pull down, like maybe like down to like a piece of 3 or 4 mil, and then apply that dot, because it just gives me a little bit more accuracy with making each dot the exact same size.
Sure.
If they're off size, the penguin can look a little bit derpy, but this is, and then here I'm adding the nose, and the eyes help me center the nose, so the eyes come first, and then the nose is centered in between them. And here I'm really just like letting it set, pulling off a little tiny bit off the edge. Like I get pretty crazy about that, about just getting it just right. And then now I'm just going to go in and hand torch the face and like get all around that nose and make sure it really all sealed in when I popped it on. I mean, I am definitely a big fan of like the one touch, like the, you know, get both surfaces really nice and hot, pop it on, and then be able to pull or stretch and get the shape just right from there. But I think it's nice to go in and just, go in with the hand torch again and make sure everything's exactly where you want it. It's funny, things have changed so much in the industry where we can be that much finer with what we do, right? We can, because we have the tools for it now, like having like the Darby reamer for mouthpieces makes my mouthpieces so much nicer. And, having the hand torch allows me to do way finer work. I remember, I wasn't too long ago when I was having to do ring seals with just the torch, and not have a hand torch. And
Yeah, that's
it's,
rough.
such a game changer. Yeah, it really is. It's just no way to work, to have to change your angle constantly and not be able to just hold the work right in front of you and go around it. And that, again, it's like, using the tools where they're appropriate and where it makes sense to use them. I'm a big fan of using tweezers to pull glass off and not having to always just use glass to pull glass off. But sometimes you need, especially like when I'm doing that nose and pulling off that detail, I can't do that with tweezers. I have to do that with a little bit of glass to make contact and pull off the tiny little bit that will make it just the right, just the right sharpness for the nose. I don't want the nose to be too lumpy or, too stout or too sharp or whatever. Sometimes it's like really sharp and you're like, oh, it almost feels like it's unfinished, when you feel the tip of the nose. So
Okay.
I've definitely had to learn how to let, there's that kind of surface tension of glass, and you have to let it kind of be happy and work its way in. Like, especially when I do icicles on pieces, that's a big thing. I don't want them to be too sharp, it just doesn't make sense. But, and I guess here, this is probably prep for the wings on the rec lab. I think that's what this is. This looks like fume prep.
Yeah, it's definitely more dot box section from Rick
Yeah.
Glass for sure. The homie, he's got the cool cat stickers, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, those cat stickers are awesome.
Yeah.
He's a good dude,
Yeah.
Um,
Looks like
yeah, and so here I'm taking a piece of 12 mil and I'm going to stuff this to make it solid.
Hell yeah.
So this is a fun thing. This is something, you know, I knew how to do it for a while, but like, you know, I saw all sorts of people doing it. Like Coyle would do it on his monkeys, you know, when he would need to make prep for, you know, arms and stuff like that, solid prep, you know, for the solid parts of the piece. Um, you know, he would just like stuff, you know, chocolate crayon. And so here I'm stuffing this with clear, and like this can definitely be a dicey move because you can trap weird air bubbles and stuff. And so here, like what I like to do is like I get it in there. Both are pretty hot. You can see I kind of got them all warmed up and happy, and you know, got it stuffed. And now I'm really just gonna like gather up a ball here where I'm heating and kind of make a Maria, and that'll seal that section off. And then I can just, you know, evacuate the air from one side to the other, and it's just a nice, quick way of stuffing this prep and getting it nice. And the cool thing is, like, you can take prep like this and stuff it with color. You know, you can get the color ready and get it into. You know, I used a piece of 12 mil here, and I'm not too crazy about it just being like perfectly sized to the sleeve. It doesn't need to be, you know, too crazy. It you can have a bit of play there, you know, and as long as you don't get ahead of yourself when you're evacuating the air out. And here I'm just using this, like, really the reverse pressure. I'm not really even sucking in that much because you don't really want to suck in on hot glass, just because of fumes and stuff like that. But you know, here it's really just using a bit of negative pressure and letting the glass just kind of slowly sleeve over this stuff, you know. And this is the same as, really the exact same thing as sleeving over, you know, taking coil prep and like sleeving clear over it or whatever, you know. It's just that this stuff happens to be solid, you know. And so here I've got like a piece of 8 mil on the other side, and of course I've got a piece of tubing, 12 mil tubing attached to this blank that is attached to my blow hose. And here's a really good place to use a blow hose, because while it's in the flame, you can be lightly sucking out, you know. And again, I'm just doing little puckers as I go along, and just, you know, getting like little by little going across this whole section, evacuating the air out. And it's okay if you get a bubble here and there, but you know, you really shouldn't be able to get any bubbles if you do it right. I mean, and I don't use a big flame. I use just the center flame, and I just run that line from one edge to the other and make sure everything's sealing as I go along. And you know, most of the times when I'm doing this kind of thing, I'll take it out for a second here and there, and let it set a little bit on the other side where it's been heated up a lot, so that it just doesn't, you know, I don't lose too much control of it. This section, it looks like I've got plenty of control. It's kind of cooling as I go along, and it also all depends on the thickness of the section you're doing. You know, this will get stretched a little bit because these are going to be 2 arms, so this is going to get stretched a little bit and then split in 2, and then shaped out into 2 arms. And I've definitely done enough of these where I've got those dimensions down. But you know, one thing that a lot of, and again, I'm air marvering. I'm trying not to over marver this stuff because it's going to get stretched. It's going to get, you know, it's going to get paddled down into shape. There's going to be a lot of marvering done to it after this process right here, you know. And so I'm not, I don't want to overwork the glass, and so I'm really just keeping everything in the air and just keeping things together, not trying to stretch it too far. And yeah, the key here is like a really good thing. A lot of people should be doing, if they're not, is like using calipers and knowing exact dimensions of things, so that like it'll give a consistency to your work, you know. Like, you know, piece to piece, you know, I can make components that are exactly the right size, and know generally how big I want things. And of course, I just had a homie hit me up for a marble as like a little carb cap thing. And so here I'm kind of necking it down to get the angle and to get, you know, one side to be right. And then on the other side here, I'm going to stretch and get that side's angle. And then that's going to basically give me an idea of where in the middle I should split it, because I'm now shaping. But during that, to get the air out, I didn't need to use a marver. I didn't need to, the air, the suction is what does that, not marvering. And so here I'm like pulling off any of that excess clear of that initial ball that I gathered up to seal off that hole. And so that's all coming off. And, I'm really trying to get just to the very edge of the prep. And then I'll start, I've just got this huge blob of trash that's gonna go in the bucket. And so now I'm just ready to reattach right from there. I can reattach down there, and now all that excess is gone. And now I can start shaping that side of it, and then cut that right in the middle. And like, this is always, this is just something I've done a lot, but like, again, it really helps to have calipers, and have even just like a ruler, you know what I mean? Like, or like a little spot on your bench where you've got like tick marks where you can say, okay, there's I need 3 inches of this prep, or 2.5 inches of this prep, and 2.5 inches on the other side, or I just need the prep equally distributed. So I'll, you can measure the prep and then find the midpoint and then say, okay, that's the midpoint. That's where it's got to be cut. And, but calipers can really help to make sure it's the same thickness along the whole piece of prep. Yeah. And so here again, I'm like, looks like I'm going to pull off any excess so that I'm really right down to the edge of the prep. And that way, I don't have all this excess. And I'll use those as kind of my bridges when I'm putting it on. I tend to bridge the wings to each other. So I'll pop one wing on and I'll bridge that to, the existing bridge and kind of the top of the penguin. And then when I put the second one on, that'll just bridge right over to the next arm because it's the closest thing. And that's a really good thing to do is like bridging to, just the closest available thing, because a lot of the stuff you're going to remove anyway. So.
Gotcha. Now you mentioned air marvering a few times. I wanted to ask, could you tell us exactly what you mean by that? Like, just you mean that you're doing your stretching or pushing out of the thing?
Yeah. So compressing the glass where it needs to be gathered up, and then when I need to like thin it out or pull it down a little bit, you letting gravity do that. And so holding it vertically and letting it fall when it needs to fall, when I need things to taper, and then, going the other way and letting more mass fall toward another side. So here I'm splitting it. I've done a little bit of just basic marvering to get the basic shape of like these two cones that will eventually become the wings. But yeah, air marvering is just all about how much shaping can you do in the air when you don't have to stress the glass out by ultra cooling it on that graphite, because the graphite like sucks so much heat out so quickly, and that shocks the glass. It really does. And again, it with certain colors and certain types of prep that have already been through so much, like with Blizzard Tech, it goes through so much, from snapping all the millis on and then dotting all the color and then putting dots over that color and just all that kind of stuff, that you end up just that surface gets pushed and pulled in so many different ways that if you marver it, that's another way it's getting shocked. And a lot of times it'll respond by with like surface stress and weird surface stress that like you can hand torch it out and it won't even come out. It'll just come back. One good way though of removing surface stress like that when it kind of can get stubborn, this was something GPS taught me in my travels, was have like a piece of 9mm tubing or something, or you can use your hand torch, ultra heat the spot you're trying to buff out with your hand torch, just buff it out like you would if it wasn't planning on coming back. And then right after you do that, hit it with some cool air. So either use that straw that you have as, just like a, basically an air blower, and blow onto the surface to just cool it. And basically you're trying to freeze it in place before it can move and decide it wants to stress out again.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times that will keep that surface smooth, and you won't get that weird frosting that just keeps coming back. That was a really good tip that GPS gave me that helps me up my game a lot, because I was having that happen here and there with the Blizzard Tech, and it was really annoying because I don't like sleeving the Blizzard Tech because I don't want it to have to get too thick and then have to get stretched and lose the detail and definition there, And so here I'm basically heating the crap out of these, and this is again, I could like have another rod on the other side of this while heating it and try to like lap it back and forth, on the Marver and try to do it that way. But here, really, I'm just doing soft glass style and going in, getting it super hot, almost uncontrollable. You'd almost gather toward the rod I'm holding it with a little bit, and then slapping it on that Marver and then giving it a good push and then heating it more. And again, this is those waves of heat that I talk about, where you get waves and where you're not done even after, the first press, it's not finished. And so it's really key here to, to use your heat to your advantage, right? And to heat and heat and heat it, give it a press, heat it more, give it another press until, I'm happy with where it is. And now here where I'm stretching and shaping it, it's going to get a little bit more thinned out too. So I'll get to a certain thickness of wing that I'm happy with. And I like these wings to be pretty burly, so they end up being probably like 7 or 8 mil thick, through the wing. And here again, like, I'm not really trying to force it too much or use tools to like, force it into shape. It's really a lot of letting it cool in the air, adding heat, stretching, adding a little bit more heat, messing with it, and basically waiting until it sets in place, and then I switch to the other side and I pull kind of the shoulder where it's going to attach to the body. And this is always a tricky move. And this is something where, I like to use the, again, it's like way more hot than like I'm ready to like shape with yet, but I coax that shape a bit and just kind of like let it, find where it's happy and where create smooth lines. A lot of this is letting the glass do what it wants and getting out of your own way, and allowing it to find the nice lines. And that's like, I hate having to force nice lines out of my glass. I hate having to like, I like to, like, for instance, when I do one pull Sherlocks, I really like that first pull to pretty much be it. Maybe I'll bridge up the Sherlock and then work the bend a little bit and get it just how I like it if there was a little weird kink or something. But, that's a good example, for instance, of where, when you get the heat and timing right, you'll get nice lines out of that, and that's a big part of it. It's just, nice lines come from nice process, and so here I'm doing the next one. And again, like, I'm really just building heat in it. I'm going hitting the middle of it. I'm hitting the edge of it, getting that really hot, hitting the middle. And then, whenever I hit that tip, like, a lot of times I'll kind of, I'll use the Marver here to kind of coax it into shape. And that also, like, here, Marvering is really nice because it allows the outer surface of the glass to cool off, and gives me a second to not lose the whole thing and not, have it kind of flop over on me out of control and then get misshapen, and so I'm like really building heat, and allowing it to, kind of gather. And when it's in the Marver like that, it'll actually kind of start working its way and thickening up a bit. And I'm thickening it up to squash it out again. And so then here I'm really squashing it. And again, using the heat, like, really, this is like the time to strike, right, while the iron's hot. And so it's, I'm really using that heat base that I've been putting into it this whole time to get it, super workable, and so that it'll flatten out exactly how I want it to. And then like again, I heat it up, and then I attach with a little rod, and then just kind of coax it into shape, and let it just kind of drag, let gravity do a lot of the work. And that's just something I've learned from doing it long enough, and just really like getting out of the way of the glass, letting it do its thing, giving it little heat boosts, and taking that heat base and just boosting the heat a little bit every time I put it in the flame. So a lot of what I was doing when I was just getting it hot and getting it hot and getting it hot was building a base that then I could use to do these later shaping moves. So what you're seeing is, a kind of like this over time building up of heat, and then working that base. And that's like a thing that I didn't understand. I had so many of my teachers tell me it, but didn't really truly understand it until I practiced enough with a heat base to understand how to work a heat base and how to like build that base and then work off of it as you go. And again, here I'm going with like pulling down that glass and letting it kind of thicken up, and getting that shoulder pulled, and I'm actually pulling the shoulder from like way before where it ends. Like I'm dragging glass from under the shoulder, and you can kind of see there when I'm like peeling off, but also like pulling where that line's going to be, because I want the line to be where the shoulder dips down to the elbow. And you'll see it, when I attach this to the piece, how that all works into the piece. But yeah, it's, understanding heat base is like such a huge part of glass blowing, man. It's so crazy. I'm sure you've heard so many people talk about it, and that when you make your millies, that's such a huge consideration, is like understanding heat base, understanding that there's like waves of heat in the glass, and like there's a moment to strike where, if you let that heat die, you've got to build it all back up again,
Right.
So,
yeah. I think it was,
and so, yeah, I've got my 2 waves here.
Oh, sorry, man. I think it was like, I can't remember. It might have been Salt or Yushin or one of them, but they were telling me they're like, the first heat is the best heat. And that notion that you were just mentioning about, once you lose that core heat and have to build it back up in an intermediary step, then that's a lot more trouble than just getting the job done while it has that established heat, and then proceeding in a logical way through it. And I mean, you've demonstrated some tremendous heat control here, like just the way, working on the edge of that and getting just the amount that you wanted to move, such that it flowed as you were pulling that line and all that. And I have a saying about everything you've been talking about, this building the heat up, man. I call it dank heat. And it's really a synthesis of core heat, and then this notion that I picked up from Mattis Cookie, who picked it up from Boyd Suguki, who's like a furnace worker who's really cerebral with it. But it's called buh, and it's build up heat. And it's just what you've been talking about, man, how you need to take your time and not just try and rage it in at once. And even using the Marver like you did when you were trying to establish that even heat in that section, it's like cooling the surface allows it to keep soaking into the core without the surface getting too hot. All these things, you've been hitting it on the head, and it's just what I've been trying to express to these homies over the years. And like it's crazy, man. When I got to Corning, we filmed a Yushin thing up there, and they were all like joking with me about the dank heat thing because they really like it. They were like, "Yeah, we love the dank heat thing." I was just like, "Oh shit, Corning approved, baby." You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up. No, it's true. It's like you have to build up heat. It's like a multi-wave process, and it's and it's an understanding that if you rage it too hard, the outside's going to be way hotter than it needs to be for the move you're trying to do, because you're trying to move all the glass at once, not a bunch of the glass here at once and then the rest of the glass later. It's like, no, it's all happening at once. It's got to be one good fluid move. And here where you see me attach the wing, it's like I attach the wing and I know it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be a bit of a slop factor. It's really all about getting it squarely on the penguin without any weird undercuts or, without trapping any air, getting it squarely on there, and then pulling the wing down to where it wants to rest, and then letting it cool enough that I can do my bridging. And you saw me kind of like heat that 8 mil rod and kind of pull it and stretch it into a bridge. So I I pretty much pulled it into like a 4 bill bridge, and that's just because it was like quicker to do that than to just like separate it, grab a piece of 4 mil, stick that on, it's just kind of like a more, fluid motion. And so, yeah, here I'm really letting it like, all just be butter and just come together. But I'm doing a lot of like flipping it from side to side, and that's not just to hit different angles, but that's actually also to let that wall flow back and forth, because the wall is hot, not just where I attached, not just the solid wing itself, but the wall is really hot. And if that wall dips in too much, you get this weird divot in the piece where it's like, really pressing into the piece. And then if it goes out too much, it's like this bump. So that's why you're seeing me like turn the piece as I'm working and then giving it little puffs as I go, is to keep that wall on the inside. That's got to be a nice line as well. That's a big part of like having good lines in your work. I would say, this penguin's pretty good, but it's not, it's not perfect. There's little things I'm always trying to get even nicer. But here, I've really just raged that and tried to get the glass to flow right and to create like I don't want the wing kind of popping out unnaturally too much. So, and it's a weird thing because it's like, I don't know what this is supposed to look like, because like when I first started making these, I kind of had to just build a sensibility of what looked right, because it's a new design. There's no penguin that actually looks like this, right? It's a cartoon interpretation of a penguin. And so it like, I didn't exactly know how I wanted the wings flowing off the body. But there were certain principles of just, like the things speak to you when they speak to you. And there's principles of design where okay, this looks right. This looks nice. It flows off the body. It doesn't jut out into the negative space and create weird visual textural disruptions, and that's a big thing to consider, I think, when making work, is to like pay attention to each piece, because I've seen so many people get into a production hustle and they just make the thing, and sometimes maybe the first couple ones are really nice, but then like as they just make it and make it and make it, like maybe they're forgetting like you need this curve or this bulge or whatever thing to be like smooth, you know what I mean? It's got to transition nice, and it's got to be proportional, and like that will sell it, we'll get it off the shelf and into people's hands, because there's something going on underneath that we're not consciously always aware of, with regards to design, that makes glass appeal to us, right? And so getting these wings to flow off the kind of triangular shape of this body was something I kind of really, I had to consider it technically as like, okay, how do I seal them in without creating weird undercuts or anything, but also aesthetically, right? Of like, great, it's sealed in, but does it look good? You know what I mean? And does it look, pleasing? Does it feel right? And are they too huge for the penguin? Are they too small for the penguin? There's definitely been a few I've put out there where the wings are like these dinky little wings, or there's a few where they're like these big old flats.
All right.
So I've had to make many iterations to get there.
Sure.
But I love using the hand torch. The hand torch is such a great tool for getting the glass to like kind of, and you probably know what I'm talking about here, with just brushing the glass and then like watching it flow from one region to another. Yeah. Even just a centimeter away can make all the difference of like distributing the glass properly and not having that wing have this big weird bulge like this guy's been taking steroids or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like
you know,
leading
it's
the
got to look natural.
yeah.
Yeah,
You mean like leading the
it's funny.
glass
It's
where
like
you
it's
want
got to
with the
look.
heat. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And gravity and just kind of brushing it along. Like you see me doing this brushing motion. I never really just stick the hand torch in one spot. I'm always brushing, brushing, brushing. Um, and it's a weird thing where I say like I want it to look that natural, but I don't know. Nobody knows what one of these penguins should look like. I mean, that's up to me as the artist. But again, you know, following principles of design, it needs to have a certain. It needs to take up negative space a certain way. It needs to. The lines can't be too bumpy. You know, when the way it flows off the body. You know, the way those wings kind of like, you know, emerge off of the body. And so right there, you could see I was like kind of heating my bridge a little bit, and then and using the fact that I still had some heat in the joint of the wing to the body to, you know, coax the wing a little bit further in. And this is where I do that move where, you know, I'm basically placing the wings exactly how they're going to be set, you know. And here I'm like dancing around a little, so I think I'm pretty happy about what's going on here. I'm like, okay, cool, we've hit a good step. And so I'm probably going to start removing these bridges now, right? And then this is another thing I saw. Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
we had a
This other
question.
move I really like.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
just talking about how I'm using scissors to cut the bridge, and it's just like a nice, quick way to remove a bridge, you know, without having to just peel it off. So
Yeah. We had a question from Nino Glass, the homie in the chat. He asked, could you explain what you mentioned an undercut? And I assume you mean like an acute angle as you're working the seal or whatever, but could you explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's the undercut is like sometimes it can even be like when air is trapped, you know. But yeah, it's like when you get an acute angle, and sometimes like you'll heat that area, and what'll happen is the surface tension of the glass will start like it'll just start chasing forward, and it'll seal up, and you'll end up sealing that whole wing up, and this poor penguin's going to have, you know, webbed wing, you know,
Yeah.
you know, versus one nice clean connection to the shoulder. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about. If you go back to where I'm actually attaching the wings, you'll notice that I'm plopping them on at a certain angle and then kind of curling it around as I go, so as not to just like, if you just kind of slap it on and don't have any kind of cognizance of exactly where you're attaching it, then you heat this whole mass up, that mass can start hugging onto the body, and then all of a sudden this whole wing is now, you know, attaching to the body and melting onto it because of that kind of surface tension of the glass, kind of like we were talking about with the ring seal. When you pop that seal in, it kind of just collects together and makes that perfect seal, partially just because of the tension, because that tension is something you see when you take a really thin piece of glass and put it in the flame and it wants to ball up. You know, that's kind of that surface tension. And so these undercuts are, you know, when you attach something to, you know, a little too, you know, when, or you know, just if you leave too like thin of an area between the glass, or like if you have a really acute angle and it's doing this instead of like doing that, you know what I mean? Where it's,
Yeah.
you know, you want it to kind of be perpendicular and then curve it to whatever angle, or, you know, you can introduce it at a curved angle, but you want to make sure that underneath there you're going to be able to heat in.
Yep.
Because sometimes you can heat under there and it just the flame will like hit, like it won't actually hit that crease. It'll hit some other area, and then that area will start getting like welling up with glass, and then it'll like attach, you know, here, and then you've got this weird air bubble in between there, and so it's really all about being very definite with how you how you attach things like that, and how you introduce, one attachment to a certain area. And so that's kind of the idea of undercoats. And I've had issues with that lately with my ice cave, this stippled tech where there's all these kind of waves on the glass. And so when I go in to attach a marble, sometimes you get a little bit of air trapped because I didn't heat that whole surface back to like molten flat, Sure. And that's something I've just been even just dealing with the last couple of weeks, making this ice cave tech and then attaching marbles to pieces that have this tech on it and realizing, I need to actually make this whole area flat again with heat and kind of get rid of all the texturing because there's a marble going there and that marble needs a flat area to attach to so you don't get those weird undercuts. And yeah, I mean, you can get away with it like in soft glass, and you can get away with it in boro. Just, it doesn't always look super clean. Certain artists have that in their aesthetic, Salt, Z, they do gnarly kind of rule breaking stuff where not everything is perfectly sealed up in one continuous line, like, Z's teeth will be like coming out of those gums and it looks like they're just jammed in there, and they kind of are, but there's a controlled way, there's a method to her madness, and same thing with, a lot of Salt's work. It's like, he's able to, really kind of get away with murder because he understands things like heat base and he understands, just general working temperature and all that kind of stuff. And so you'll see me again, working these wings and just really just letting gravity do the work. I mean, that's such a huge part of this is just letting, let it, like, I don't want it to get too thick and mop on me or, just kind of bulge out and lose kind of the nice curve and nice thickness of those wings, which can be really tough because I don't want to have to reflatten that out. It's like you were saying, like the first heat's the best heat, right? So it's like, I don't want to have to reflatten that out. So I'm just really careful to like, let the heat do a lot of the work, but not too much. And I coax it. You can kind of see me coaxing those wings with my paddle a lot as I go and just keeping it from thickening up too much on one side or another, and just kind of like, I'll do these like brushes kind of with the paddle. And that's another thing is like, these tools aren't just for mashing things down or just for pressing things into. It's, there's so many other ways you can use them, and it's just all dependent on the, the application at hand. It's how you're going to, present the work in, how you're going to piece the work together and what you need at the very moment. And so a lot of times, like when I'm doing those wings and I'm really ultra heating that one part where I'm making the shoulder, that can definitely get to be a little bit kind of thicken up on me. And so I'll use that paddle to just coax it into shape,
Or even preclude it from bunching up, like it's like the same thing with that. You're mentioning that, maybe not the same thing, but it's reminding me, you're mentioning that trickery, like, get that heat in there and then freeze it before it has a chance to drift again and introduce that cold stress. Same deal, man. If that paddle hits it, it's going to stop it from wanting to gather up before because it's been cooled, and pushed just a little bit. Those little things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's a consideration. Is like it's not just pushing it; it is cooling it, right? And so that's keeping it from thickening up too much. And so, like I do the same thing here. I'm really paddling it down, and I'm kind of sliding it across as I go. And everyone's just got different ways of approaching this, but I think a lot of this is just born out of. I mean, that's one of the big things I tell people is like repetition is so key because it gives you this baseline of how the glass is going to behave. So, if you make something out of clear a gazillion times and then you make it out of color, well, if it's moving differently, it's the color, right? Versus if you don't repeat it enough, there's all these other things it could be, right? And so it's like, learning how to use these tools is a matter of repetition and a matter of of understanding what is making it do this, what is making it do that. Is it the cooling off? Is it the pushing? Is it both? You know, and then once you learn that, like, it's all flow, you know, and it just really, it really flows from there. And then you know exactly how long to apply a paddle for, or that, you know, instead of pressing it into the glass, you want to like drag it across the glass because you're just trying to give it, you know, you're really just trying to coax it a little bit. And that's, you know, more, again, more than anything, this stuff is like straight up, you know, it's like Aikido or something, right? It's like you're getting out of the way of the glass and you're letting it do what it needs to do by applying heat, pressure, time, you know. And it's and like, you know, like one of those kind of philosophical things, like you were talking about the ga thing, and or the ba
Buh,
thing,
yeah.
you know, it's like those philosophies, uh, you know, they're summed up in these little things, but they're built from like all these hours of playing with the medium and learning about what it likes, you know, not
Yeah.
what we can force it to do, but like what it likes, you know, and how it likes to be worked, and how, you know, one of the big things I really like is like, if you can do the, you know, the least amount of heat you can do it in and get a result, that's going to be the best way to do it
Hmm.
generally. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, if you can heat it, you know, and not have to keep going back and reheating it and keep messing with it and keep doing all this stuff, that you're going to get your best result, and you're going to get your nicest lines too. Again, like when I do one pole Sherlocks, the nicest lines come when I have everything balanced. You know, my heat, my timing, and my pressure is all balanced, and I can just let it drift into shape, and it just makes this perfect curve that's based on gravity. It's not based on how crafty I am with my hand torch. You know what I mean? It's based on,
Yeah.
you know, it's nice to be crafty with your hand torch because a lot of times you got to fix things like that, right?
Yeah.
I have to go back and fix tons of curves all the time, but the instances when I get it done in one heat and kind of pull, those just look better. You know, they really
Sure.
do. They just flow better. You know, and it's like, I don't necessarily tell anyone that when I'm selling it to them, but
Yeah.
you know, you know, it really, secretly I'm like super stoked. You know, like, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
was the one. You know, like this store got the one that was like the really like perfect one. You know, like they all look the same at the end of the day, but it's like kind of like this weird thing when you know it, you just feel better about that piece. You know, as the
Totally.
artist, it's kind of funny.
I think it's that it's that organic, you know, when the heat is right
Yeah,
and you're shaping it that way, it lends itself to those natural organic flowing curves, and that's hard to fake later. I mean,
yeah,
that's what you're doing. And you're trying
yes,
to force your way back to nature. It's fucking that's a hard thing to do, you know. It's much better to let nature do
yeah,
its job in the first place.
yeah. Exactly. That's exactly it. You know, you don't want to have to engineer your way back to it, right? You
Yeah.
just want it to happen naturally.
Sure.
Um, and then here again, I'm doing my, you know, really just getting rid of any bulge off of that shoulder and getting the shoulder to transition to the body, you know, as smoothly as possible. And again, like, you know, the interesting thing with glass blowing is it's so present moment, you know, and you have to be in the present moment to like to do a good job. You know, my best
Yeah.
work is when I'm present to my work and when really I'm not thinking about anything else. You know,
Sure. Yep.
I'm really just focused on the movements and the, you know, the heat and the timing and the pressure. You know, and here I'm, you know, I think there I was just kind of like heating that bridge a little bit just to coax the wing in a little bit now. And that's a big thing, you know,
Mm.
like something I saw that was really cool that Coyle did when he was putting the tail on one of his monkeys, and he wanted the tail to like come up behind the head of the monkey in just the right place, not in like a weird way where it looked like, you know, where it just it didn't, where it, you know, maybe maybe if it was coming up right behind the monkey's head, it looked like the monkey had a ponytail. It was was flying up or something.
Yeah.
Like it needs to look like a monkey's tail coming up. And one thing he did was like he slapped this tail on, bent it up, bridged it, and then he went and he worked on that joint, and he got that good. And then he heated the join all around, and then heated the bridge, and then moved it to where he wanted. And it was the kind of thing where it's like you don't have to slap something in place and then have it be perfectly in place and bridge it and say that's where it's going to be, and then I just heat it in. A lot of times that actually won't look natural. It's like you have to place it, and then you can articulate it after you place it. Once it's all Gucci and once everything's melted in solid, no undercuts or anything, then you can do a little bit of manipulation and articulation and get it, get those wings a little bit closer to the body, or get that tail coming over to the side so it balances out, the other, monkey that's over to the side with its tail coming up, that kind of thing. And like, that was a tiny little thing I got from seeing Coyle's class, but it was funny because I don't think a lot of other people noticed it, because there were a lot of different skill levels and different perspectives taking that class. And I've noticed that as I've taken classes, being deeper into glass blowing, like when I took Lawrence Stump's class, I would think I was 8 years in, and I got so much out of it. But I think I'd get even more out of it now, being 16 years in,
Sure.
And so it's really interesting, all these different things we pick up, just work, also just like working philosophy, working style, the choices you make when you're at the bench, the way you decide to do things. There's 10 different ways to make a joint. There's 10 different ways to attach a joint. There's 10 different ways to attach an attachment like this arm right here, and, I think what's interesting is like the least steps, again, like talking about how, like, if you can do it in as little heats as possible, that I think points in the right direction of like, this is more right in a way than maybe this other way. You know what I mean? Of maybe like putting this half flattened wing on and then having to flatten it more as you're sticking it on the piece or whatever. It's like those are all things I picked up, and like, like why make extra steps for yourself when, you can adopt a philosophy that embraces the idea of elegance, right? And of simplicity, and of, if you can find elegant solutions to things, it's like kind of like the idea of Occam's razor, right? It's like the simplest explanations tends to be the right one. And it's like, this, the least moves you can make in these processes, that's probably going to be the better, more right way to do it. I just, and I say more right just because it's, it's not always right and wrong. I mean, I definitely think there are certain things you do in glass, we all do in glass that are like, this is the right way to do it, right? And this is the wrong way. But then there's a lot of engineering in between that, and a lot of like philosophy in between that about how to approach these things. And so, and then, it's crazy because you introduce a variable like color, and then you have to change your approach, like with the crayon color, man, I have to like, everything's got to be oxygen flame, or just low heat flame, right? Because it's not dependent on atmosphere, it's dependent on heat with crayon colors. But and then I have to be really, really, really careful with my hand torch, because that thing can fry crayon colors. And right here, these wings I'm putting on are terps, and that's a crayon. That's actually, it's a crayon color. I mean, it's cadmium, it's not full like orange crayon, but it's cadmium, And so you've gotta, you can definitely scuzz it out. And so I'm definitely cognizant of that when I'm working with a color like this. But that's why, like I said before, repetition is so key. And then here again, I'm adjusting, I'm articulating, like I melted that in, kind of like the move I was talking about in Coils class. I've melted this in. I've gotten it happy. Everything's sealed. It's not going to crack on me out of nowhere, right, from not being sealed. But it needs a little bit of articulation. And then after that articulation, a lot of times you get a little kink in the shoulder or something from making that movement. And that's when I can kind of go back and work that shoulder joint even a little bit more.
Sure.
And so right there, I'm like kind of getting back into it and just saying, okay, let's smooth these lines out a little bit. And I mean, as much as I like to get this, I'd like to follow that philosophy of like, okay, you slap this in one move and get it perfect in one move, and the heat's perfect and everything. Realistically, this does take a lot more steps than that because, I haven't been doing this for 40 years, right?
Well, yeah,
But it's crazy because, you look at guys like Mickelson, and like it's pretty crazy how amazing the control gets when you've got someone who's literally been doing it for like 40 years,
Sure.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, what you were mentioning earlier about, what's right or whatever, and I understand your hesitation to use those terms, but it reminds me
Right.
of something that I learned. One of my more important teachers is Roger Paramore. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to learn
Oh,
with him, but
cool.
he has, so much of what he teaches is based in the physics of glass and all this buildup heat and all that stuff. It's just entropy to him, and he
Yeah.
explains it like layers of dancing molecules. He's got all these analogies. I can't recommend learning with him enough. When the Beat
Oh, wow.
Expo is rescheduled, he has a lecture about this. And it's like his
Oh,
fundamentals
cool.
lecture where he talks about this. But it reminded me really specifically, he has this notion of losing the least. And his idea is that, the second you turn the
Right.
torch on, you're losing. But it's just a matter of figuring out how to lose the least and using this system that
Right.
you've come up with. And you have these principles. And in your case, I think they're right, about doing things, as quickly as possible and not futzing around and taking too long and be reheating things over and over again. And if that's the system you're working
Right.
in, how do you lose the least? And you need to think about that seal and how do you initially tack it and preserve your angle of approach with the hand torch to get that little, armpit
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. All these little things, and it's
Yeah.
you have to make that decision about when do you modify that, when do you add a step. And the same thing with you mentioned with
Right.
Coil, he added that step because it allows him to do the next step more fluidly and move the tail into place, and trying to attach that tail and do the seal at once and curve it into the perfect positioning. That's that's a fool's errand, unless you're Mickelson or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it's so,
Yeah.
not to get too far away from what's happening here, but it just reminded me so much of what Paramore talks about and losing the least and designing your process and to win the most or whatever. It's not so much of what's right or what's wrong. It's just in this case, you have an ideal and you're going to approach it while losing the least of the things you care about. So anyways,
Yeah.
all right.
No, I love that. That's a great philosophy. I haven't had the chance to learn from Roger yet, but he was big on my list. I mean, a lot of the big guys when I started out were like Mylan Townsend and Robert Mickelson and Paramore and Lawrence Stone. So I've learned from all of those except for Roger Paramore, actually. But I love that philosophy of losing the least.
Cheers.
That really encapsulates it, and of course makes sense because he's been doing it for so long and understands these things.
Yeah, dude.
And yeah, so here I'm attaching this.
Oh, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna.
Oh
ramble
yeah,
about
here
that
here I'm attaching this. This is the Disco Explosion marble. This kind of really cool thing that Ricky does, where he like basically has puts like crazy silver fume into this. I mean, really, I think it's like straight up silver that's been filed down, and that's like a really cool thing. I don't know if people know, or not, but
we've
this,
done it on some demos here.
Yeah, you can do so much cool stuff just by filing down silver and then like encasing it, and like so much cool space stuff is done that way, just like using silver filings.
Yeah.
But he does this cool thing where he does like crushed opal and silver all kind of exploding into this marble, and like I was a little freaked handling this thing because of how I don't really like to mess with opals a lot. I just, again, like when it comes to the philosophy of it, it doesn't seem, it's not glass, so it doesn't seem like it's, it's compatible for now, but
Yeah,
who
yeah.
knows what's going to happen
No, exactly.
in 10, 20 years.
Yeah, yeah. It might
So,
last
so
10,000.
I was definitely, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, that's it. Is it going to really last that long? And so
Yeah.
I was definitely really hesitant using this thing. And again, like, got that Bunsen flame going, just trying to keep things happy. Don't want anything to pop on me. And placing these types of marbles is always tough because sometimes the wings might be a little bit in the way. Because as you can see in my process, I place the wings first, but I don't know how whatever, little shield or little marble or, a lot of times I have these when I make the solo ones, these penguins are holding little bongs. So don't always know how they're going to fit. So sometimes I have to go back. And what I do is instead of heating the whole wing and moving it, I tend to heat at the shoulder and just, the whole wing will articulate and move out that way.
Yeah.
And then I can bring it back in and then I can redo that process of heating that armpit and heating that shoulder and getting it to look fluid and not look like it was wrenched out of place and then jammed back in place,
Yeah.
But yeah, this one went pretty smooth. I didn't look like I had to really manipulate too much or make the wings move too much. But
Yeah,
a lot of times after I add this, I heat up each wing and get the whole wing to follow a line toward that marble. And so that's what's going on here is I'm like really working the wing, really building up a heat base in it, and then just coaxing it along with my paddle and just like getting a little bit closer to that marble. And this is like final articulation basically.
Yeah. This one was
And
so close.
this is where, what's up?
I was gonna say this one was so close. It looked like you didn't really want to do the shoulder on this one, huh?
Yeah, no, this wasn't. This was a matter of moving. You get the entire wing to just very slightly kind of curl in, because it's if I just moved with the shoulder, it would have not had the kind of the directionality, the line, going toward that. Because now that I placed that marble, I know I have my target, and so this is where. Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is, I mean, I've made enough of these penguins that, this is how this process has built over time and has evolved. In, here I'm just using gravity and I'm just letting it come in a little bit. But, I get it hot enough that it flows and flows in an organic way, right? Not like I don't want to, like, you can see me like just barely kind of coaxing it and giving it little pushes with the paddle. I'm not like really pressing on it or anything, again, letting the heat really do what it wants to do and getting it so that like it barely looks like the penguin's kind of holding this aura,
Yeah. But you heated enough back though that when you hit it, it like enough of it moved to get that organic look. Is that
right?
To say, or?
Right, exactly, and not too much of it moved that it was out of control on me, and that it tacks to the marble or something weird happens. And so here, I'm pretty stoked because that all worked out, and now I'm just letting the heat, die off in that wing, and while that's dying off over there, I can go up and heat the top, and I've had this thing in the Bunsen burner going back and forth, and so now. The rest of it is ready to go. Like other parts of it, I can just go in and heat. And, I end up heating the cold seal. And that's another thing. I like to heat the whole cold seal.
I was curious.
Before popping it right off. Because, like a lot of times people will do this thing where they blow oxygen on it. Or they like heat it and then blow oxygen on it to shock it. And like, yeah, that's okay. You can do that. But like, I really like to just heat that whole area because it almost gets it a little bit moving the tiniest bit, like not even moving, but just like kind of like hot glass or warm glass that's at 1050 or above, a lot of times it'll just bounce off the floor. It won't break. It's weird. It'll have enough, heat in it that it's just barely moving.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, there's a resilience. It's not in the cracking, brittle kind of state. And so I use that when I pop that cold sealed off, where it's tacky and sticky, and it doesn't want to crack so much as it wants to separate where that weak point is, And so I use that to my advantage. And then here I've just popped the mouthpiece. And normally I like to just pick open the mouthpiece. I mean, I used to do this thing where I would pull the glass and then I would stick a hot blob on there and then rip it off.
Yeah, like you do for the joint.
Yeah. But, for the mouthpiece, I actually just like to pull, little bits and little bits until it just opens up on its own. And again, that's just something I've done a little differently from the past. When I would rip it off the top, sometimes you'd have a little excess that was on there, and then what do you have to do? You have to, like, peel that edge off, and it leaves a bleb, and it's not a perfect hole. Or you take off too much of the hole, and then you've got a real problem on your hands, and it's like, that's I found that to be, again, an inferior process, something where it was actually the wrong way of doing it. But like with certain things, if I'm making like a spoon or something small and I just want to mouthpiece that, that's where it's maybe a little bit more forgivable, or where you can rip that off and then heat that whole edge up and get it to suck in. But the way I want to work these penguins and the way I want the triangle of the penguin shape to come up, I don't want it to come up to this weird thick mouthpiece or something, that's gathered up too much. And you can see me, here I'm adding the little attachments to this bong. And so this is always a tricky part to, like, attach the bong in, but not have it sit too far out from the penguin so it looks weird, but not have it be too close into the penguin so that when I seal it in, again, it's an undercut thing. And like, if I seal it too close to the penguin, the whole bong is going to start sucking onto the belly of the penguin, and it's going to like envelop this thing, and it's just not going to look natural. So again, I'm just being really careful to just kind of tack things in place and then go in with that nice hand torch flame and like really pinpoint where I want to heat and do that nice fuse. And so this is on the Frit collab. Yeah, these were really fun to do because, again, they're actually relatively quick, because once everything's prepped out and you're sitting there assembling it, there's actually not a lot of go between with the kiln, because I can use that Bunsen flame, because it's, these pieces they're contained. It's not this big, long piece where if you're flame annealing it, you're really only flame annealing one part of it. The whole thing gets flame annealed throughout this process and is constantly kind of having the stress relieved in it, Yeah. So this is and then here I'm just tapping on that connection, and that cracks it off. So I tap on it while it's all bridged in place, but when you see it like right there, it just flies out of place because I just gave it a little tap and that cracked it off. And then what's great is, like, I made that punny good enough that all you got to do is buff it off. You don't have to remove any extra material or anything.
Is that just
here? I'm like,
I'm sorry, man. It's hard to talk, man, because the timing difference makes it. I don't ever mean to interrupt you, man. The timing difference is what's catching me there.
It's all good.
But I was gonna ask, is that to like keep it from having like this weighted pull in a certain direction as it comes off, or tapping it?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Exactly. I'd rather not. Well, I mean, I could, detach, get rid of the bridge kind of, and then just kind of smack that stuff off. I could do it that way, but here I just kind of decided, give it a couple whacks while it's still in place, and then heat that bridge, and then see if it just falls out of place. Gotcha. Because then I know it's like really kind of perfectly separated. Sometimes when I just try to smack it off the top, it'll leave a little splinter or something. You know what I mean? It's sometimes the angle, the way it kind of, falls off from where it was attached. A punny like that. Sometimes it can leave a little bit more. So I think it's kind of a stable way of doing it. A lot of times when I'm doing marbles and I'm breaking the punny off, I'll actually or even like a pendant where I've got it held on the front of the pendant, I'll like press the pendant down and like tink the glass, and you can see it separate, and then I just lift off, and it just, I think it's just a little cleaner and kind of doesn't leave you the risk of leaving anything extra from the punny and then having to try to scrape that off or something. And so here I'm not mouthpiecing, but finishing off the piece and pulling off the bottom glass. And this is always a little bit risky because that perk is right there.
Yeah.
That perk is right on the bottom. And I try to I don't want that bottom to be too convex or whatever, or have this penguin not sitting right. So, I'm really trying to get that bottom to come up into the penguin a little bit. But at the same time, I don't want it to tack to that perk after all this work I've done, right?
Yeah.
And then here I use the tail as a stabilizer. So I'm really heating the tail and letting that glass droop a little bit. Just the kind of bottom of the tail is just that surface tension is blobbing up a little bit. And then going in and right there, I'll have it on the feet first, and then I'll press it down. And that kind of ensures that everything's flush and flat. So it's nice to do it like toothpaste style like that.
Oh yeah, this piece is adorable, man. Look at this thing. I love it.
Yeah. I think right there, there was a little bit of surface something going on with the rewig or something.
Sure.
And so I needed to go in and make sure that was nice and happy. And again, it's really nice to look at, when you're getting close to finishing a piece, just give it a look over and make sure you polished off where the cold steel was attached. Make sure you polished off. I mean, I'm just kind of, at this point, I'm really used to things having, I'm used to pieces I make having something that I need to put it back in the kiln for. Just having some little thing that is off, or some little thing that needs to be polished, or some little rough spot or putty mark or whatever, and so to try to get ahead of that, at least, a lot of times I look over the piece, while I'm working it. And then just a lot of times I'll take something out of the kiln, like about to mouthpiece it or about to finish it off, and I'll just give it a look over, and then I'll put it back in the kiln, wait a little bit more, and then take it out and finish it, and just really, that's just come from experience, right? It's like there's always some little thing that's not right. And so especially at an event like this where you don't want to take up too much kiln space or have to go back and forth with projects.
Risky
it was
to be
really
anybody's way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, me and Nico were working on that shark this past summer, and that thing, somebody left the kiln open straight up. Opened the kiln, and then just went to work on their piece and totally forgot to close the whole kiln, and it was
was the shark okay?
Oh yeah, it was totally fine. But
thank God.
It's the kind of thing where he came over to work on it and was like, oh, the kiln's just open. I have no idea how cold or hot this shark is, and so he closed it up and made sure that everything was good.
Yeah.
And,
secret time. I filmed him doing a collaboration with Crunk the year before this, when I filmed Crunk's chip stacking demo, but that shark didn't make it for a similar reason. And I don't know if I've ever even mentioned it. It was just that's what happened with that, and it was devastating. So I was like, good God, please tell me there wasn't a shark issue again.
Right.
Anyways,
shark attack.
Hey, Christian, thank you so much. You just made that demo. You took that demo to platinum status with tremendous narration, and added so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us, man. It is.
Oh, thanks.
That was awesome. I feel like I just took a class.
That was great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Of course, man. Of course. Now we're gonna play some games. That's what we've been doing, you guys. You know, it's like Torch
Cool.
Stalk, my online festival, while we're all stuck at home. Also sponsored by these cats you're seeing right now. Like, not to turn this into an ad, but guys, these companies do pitch in every month. You know, and like this whole thing, Carrie filmed it. You know, I did a ton of editing. Don't get me wrong. It's just it's so important that we're able to go to all of these shows, bring people with me when I need to. All of it. It makes it all possible. So I wanted to take a moment to thank all these cats and some of y'all pitching in on Torch Pass. It means the world. And yeah, so we're definitely gonna play some games. I've got some prizes. I've got sticker packs. I've got Millie. Oh man, if you guys are one of my subscribers, get ready. Those packs are going out. But man, these are some fresh color combs. It's hard to see, but this is Nemo, North Star Nemo. It's a beautiful like aquamarine with white, and then we got the red and the white coming out for you guys. And I don't know if these will be for sale, but it might be for the packs. We'll see. The homie in chat
That's
says,
a really
"Hey,
sick pattern.
oh, cheers, man. Yeah, I really like this pattern of like a 19 cell comb where there's like two lanes of a different color because it allows like the rows of the other color to be offset against it at certain angles. Anyways, not to get into all that. Yeah, dudes, let's play some fucking games. Let me start.
Christian, are you gonna stick around for games or?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah?
All right,
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
I'm about that
Very
life.
cool.
Good. Yeah. So, like I said, we're gonna play some Jackbox games. These are massively multiplayer in certain senses. Let's jump back into the Jackbox Party Pack 6.
Caleb wants to know if there's still a wait list for the Millie tier on Patreon, and I think Mike was saying there might be
one slot, but you should wait one day to sign up.
Oh, right, because they charge you on the beginning of the month.
Yeah, so if you sign up,
now and the beginning of the month. So.
Yeah, if you sign up right now, it'll charge you and then charge you again like in a few hours. Just wait till the 1st. I think there's one slot open on the packs, and I think I'm gonna be able to have like 4 extra packs this time. I'm not certain. I gotta chop that Millie up tomorrow, and we'll see what's left on the last round. But yeah, they come with color samples. They come with Millie. They come with tons of stickers. They're really cool. You guys can't see this. You're just hearing the music.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, as a reminder for the Jackbox party games now, if you guys want to play, if you're on a computer, no biggie, you just need 2 windows open because one, you're going to be watching this stream, which is show the game, and then another window to be your controller. And if you're watching on a TV, then your phone can be your controller. If you're watching on a phone, then you have no controller, so you're going to need another device. Maybe you have a significant other or some friends hanging out in quarantine with you. They can be the controller, or maybe you guys can pop it up on TV and you all can have controllers because there's players and then there's also audience. So once the player slots fill up, then you can sign up and you can be in the audience, and we still get some sort of power in the audience depending on our game.
All right, y'all ready to do this? Everybody needs to go to jackbox.tv. And you can put in your code HWOD. I'm in the game. I'm the VI Pizzle. I'll give y'all a second to jump in. And then, yeah, even if you don't get a spot, you can have a spot in the audience, which also gets to play along as well. So, yeah, this is gonna be cool. Like I said, I've got some sticker packs and a bunch of Millie Kane extras, man. I'll be hooking homies up who win and play along with us. Damn, everybody's in. This is amazing. All right,
time to get in the audience.
Yeah, I'm gonna give y'all just a second to jump in the audience. I'm gonna go grab a beer, so just give me like 10-20 seconds. I'll be right back, and then we'll pop this off. Let y'all jump in the audience before we start.
I was going to chime in with some Dub. Dub Glass was asking about.
I'm good, thank you.
You're good?
some tong socks, and I think I got them from Acadian Glassworks.
Yeah, I think that's the link that Mike put up there. So
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, and also in chat, Molten Mike was saying earlier that Chaka, he caught you, and you were the reason that he got into the glass game. He was watching you do a
Oh,
demo or
hell
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
All right, I think we're ready to do this.
Okay.
All right, everybody's in. Let's go.
The local residents familiar with the abandoned building's history know it simply as the Murder Hotel.
The infamous hotel was run by a mysterious family for several generations. In unrelated news, the trivia murder party killer is still
Oh God.
Up next, Sassafras.
All right, here we go.
This is your wake-up call. Prepare to die. Welcome to Trivia Murder Party. Those free vacation coupons you received in the mail were a trick, luring you into a game with deadly consequences. Only one of you will survive. Quick tip, it's easier to win if you cut all emotional attachments now. Alright, first question. Which of these cute fish has a glowing lure growing out of their head?
Mm-hmm.
Use your device to answer the question.
Oh,
That
I
goes
know
for the
this
audience, too.
Yeah, I think I know this too, man, because the homie made one, a Pipe Classic, remember?
one. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, Pipe Classic, fist bump and shit. Like,
Time's almost up.
Carl in chat was asking if you can turn the volume up. I don't know if that's an issue for everybody.
I mean, I can do it during the next game. I wanted it to be balanced
And the
between our
correct answer
voices
is,
and the
Cool.
game, but I'll turn it
who
up
got
next
the
game.
question
Yeah,
right?
it's hard to get a good
Which
balance.
leaves only you.
And for all you in the
Follow
audience,
me.
Chaka and I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
So
Welcome to room 113. The hairdryer's broken, sorry. This one lets you protect yourself with the password.
ooh.
Enter a real 4-letter word with your device.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it easy. If someone cracks your password, you die.
Oh, jeez. Oh, he's got to do that. I was like, damn, I don't.
Now everyone else will try to crack the password. As a team, guess the password on your device.
That's a
You
team.
get a clue if your guess has a letter in the right spot.
Nobody said we'd have to work together.
Uh-oh.
If anyone figures out the password before
Glass
time
blowers are
runs
not
out,
known for that?
I
Is
will
that what you're
reward you all.
All right, I'm doing pipe, so somebody else do boro. No? Okay.
Don't be greedy about what letters you figured out.
Boro
Let
doesn't
everyone
work.
know.
Damn, come on, y'all. Cock. No, just what? Oh shit!
Jeez. Well.
Oh, oh, oh! It is. Look how close I was. God, got it,
Pretty
motherfuckers!
weak password.
Nice.
All right, all right. I see how this game works.
Yeah, you all-
Kill bonus. That's right. We killed that fool.
You're not
Oh,
going
no.
anywhere.
Poor
The end of your life isn't the end
Sorry,
of your
Andrew.
participation. Keep playing, you just might steal someone else's life force and win the game. Oh, by the way, the audience
Oh, the
is a player now
audience.
and
Look
win
at
the whole
us.
frickin' game. If you're not ready now, you can join the audience whenever. It's like super low pressure. Let's keep moving. What was the name of Karen's unseen husband on the TV show Will and Grace?
Oh man.
Shit. I don't know about this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna guess on this one.
All right. I did find my Windows sound mixer and I turned the volume up just a bit. Audience members, let me know if you're happy.
Time's running out.
I
Yeah.
don't think we've seen enough Will and Grace to
I
know that there
know.
was even a Karen with an unseen
know.
husband.
This.
Of course, Stan.
I got it right. All right. There should be a setting where you can
Oh,
disable
man.
questions about Will and
Come
Grace.
with me. Welcome to room 217. Oh,
Guess
the lost
who's gonna
art of
die?
letter writing.
Who will die and win $100?
I'm going to dictate
Sorry,
a message
Noon,
to
that's
you.
you, dog.
Write down
Oh,
as much
dude,
of
I
what
just
I say
did
as
the
you
same
can.
thing.
The
They're
player who
going
writes
down.
the least of my words
My boy,
will
gonna
die.
die.
Get your typing fingers ready because I'm starting right
Who writes
now.
the fewest words? Wow, this is like
To the
a
good people at Precious Cat Magazine, congrats on
What?
another
transcription
knockout
game.
issue.
Hurry up, type,
Just when
type, type.
thought
I guess I
cats
was
could
wrong.
not
Chaka's
get
gonna
more
die.
precious, you give us
What do we
Miss
play?
Fancy Paws.
Oh,
I
jeez.
would like to double my subscription if that's a thing you
Type
can
as many
do.
words as you can on that typewriter right
Time's
there.
up. All right, now let me get out my red pen and give this a once over. And
Yeah.
here's how you did. Wow, so much
Oh, wow.
unacceptable content
Apparently you were the
here.
only one paying attention,
I mean,
Chaka.
I could bang
So,
my head
good
on the
job.
typewriter and get something better than
You
this.
wrote
Jeez.
Q.
What?
Oh no.
Well, they turn
idea
into
what
ice,
I-
dude. It's like you
Oh,
murdered
check it
them.
out.
That's so funny.
Chaka iced them.
Let's try another one. What does the P in ESP stand for?
Oh, I know this. Penis.
Oh boy. Oddly enough, that
Nice,
wasn't
nice.
an option.
Sorry. Turns out that might not be the right. Okay.
Extra scandalous poltergeist.
Yeah. Who's excited about that new Ghostbusters, right? What? No?
What?
Almost out of time.
Yeah,
Really?
there's a whole new Ghostbusters film coming out, and this time it's not like all women. Nothing against that, but that was just a weird thing, man. We're all gonna forget that ever happened.
It's gonna be like Spider-Man. They're gonna make like 50 of them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they are, man. That was the deal. They made this new company called
Let's keep
Ghost Corps,
moving.
and it's like they're gonna like turn
What's
into
up,
some
boy?
Marvel Universe shit, and
Ghost
everybody's
Corps.
getting paid out the ass.
Oh jeez.
Yep, it is. It's crazy. But the new one is like the
What's a
original
Volio?
director's son is doing it, like Ivan Reitman's kid or whatever. Jason
Oh,
Reitman.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
that's cool.
This thing has some bona fides. I hope it's really gonna be good. They're gonna turn it
Yeah,
into
yeah.
like Stranger Things, you know, like a bunch of kids and shit. But
Oh, right, right.
yeah, it's
That's
okay though.
cool.
Yeah, it'll be a whole
Yeah.
thing. So I'm looking
One
forward
of
to
you
it,
is still
honestly.
alive.
Yeah.
Time for consequences.
Took a lot of money to get Bill Murray to sign that contract. You know what I'm saying?
This is the one with the big creepy mirror.
Damn.
Yeah.
It goes to my auntie who
They're like,
loves
this
to
thing's
write
gonna
words
pay
on
for your
mirrors.
kids' college and
Pay
their kids'
attention to
college
her
and their
unique
kids' college.
handwriting.
Just please sign the
Now,
Ghost Corps
Aunt
contract.
Mildred
He's
is
like,
going to write a
all
different
right.
word.
fuck."
But so will everyone else. Draw a word on the mirror, and maybe you'll trick someone into thinking it's Aunt Mildred's.
Okay, here we go. Time for me to.
Start writing on that mirror.
It's my time to
Pay
shine.
attention to the words as they appear, and try to spot my auntie.
I wonder which word is Mike's.
So many convincing words to choose from.
Yeah.
Now, type the word that Aunt Mildred wrote. Or
Yo, you know what
die.
it is. Come on. She's a cock fiend. What do you want? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Aunt Mildred is?
Okay, yeah.
Yes, yes, she is.
Enter the right word now.
Not only
or
does
you
she spell
die.
it, she draws it.
All right.
Would the real Aunt Mildred please stand up? Oh, that's a weird mistake. Let me show you what's behind the looking glass.
Huh.
Turn to ice.
This is the perfect game to play.
This is so appropriate.
Chaka death movie. You just got murdered by the Iceman. There's a legit killer called the Iceman. I'm talking about like the Killer Confessions. They interview this dude in
Oh.
prison.
Final
You know what I'm
round.
talking about?
That's right. That mob guy like
Yeah,
killed
yeah,
a ton of
like-
people. Yeah,
Exactly.
It was crazy.
Isn't it? What the fuck?
What?
The hell is Scotch, man?
Ooh.
Chaka, that sounds like what you were drinking earlier.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna pick that one because it sounds cool. But it's
This
probably
is
wrong.
weird.
Yeah, what the hell is this?
I've never heard of this. I was
Who
a
knew?
horticulture major, and
What the hell is
this is
water
new
mint?
to me.
This is why we play trivia.
Time's running out.
All right, you guys are taking so long. I'm sure you Googled it. Come on.
This.
Oh shit!
What? Water mint? What
It's
the fuck?
time.
I'm with you on the what the fuck is water mint.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Never
That's
heard
weird.
of such a thing.
It's
What?
the mind meld.
It's me?
Type in an answer that fits this
Uh-oh.
category.
Uh-oh.
I fucked up.
Everyone else will answer too.
One of
And
the
if
first
anyone
US
matches
presidents?
you die.
First 10.
Get to
He's got
writing.
10. So,
Bam.
no
See,
Googling
I took
this.
AP US history, so you know what I mean. Like,
You better know, man.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't pick one of the hardest ones because I only remember like 3 of them. To be honest, it's been a lot of years since then. I've done a lot of drugs.
Washington. That's my first guess.
I'm like Joe Exotic over here. I'm broke as
Okay.
shit. I did a lot of drugs when I was young.
Now, let's
Are
see if
you
there
really
that-
are you really sure you're wanting to be claiming that you're Joe
Yeah.
Exotic? Over
Had some
here?
kinky
Well,
sex.
I guess mind reading
Yeah.
doesn't exist after all. Can I say that out loud?
Oh hell yeah!
It was hard to resist not opening the show like, what up, all y'all cute
I
cats
wrote
and
this next
kittens or
question
whatever.
just for you. If you get it right, I will punish everyone else.
Oh.
Which of these inventions did Thomas Edison patent first?
What?
And I guess the audience can answer too.
That motherfucker probably did make some kind of spirit phone.
And the correct answer
Oh,
is...
I missed my chance. Damn.
Did you get the question right?
We can get my answer in.
What?
That's what I was gonna guess. I was
Damn.
totally gonna guess
The
phonograph.
rest will suffer.
Oh well.
Yep.
Oh.
I'm giving you all scratch tickets. What a quirky last-minute gift.
Okay.
Scratch and
Oh,
find
uh-oh.
$3 to live. If you keep scratching, I'll give you cash for every dollar
Win
sign
cash.
you find.
Wait, what?
But if you scratch off even one skull, you die.
Huh.
I didn't know we could win cash
Start
in this game,
scratching.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
fucking
you
set.
did it.
It might
I
be
fucking
fun to
did
press
it.
your luck.
Come on, Carl. Oh. Are you guys are gonna keep going?
What do you mean? I'm not
It only
done?
let you. Does it? I don't know. Does it only?
I don't
let
know,
you
man. I'm just gonna
scratch
scratch
The
till I'm
contest
fucking
is
done, but I
almost over.
definitely won this shit.
3?
So did Carl. Good job, Carl. We're the fucking survivors,
Played it
baby.
pretty safe. Boo.
We're not getting chocolate up
That
today.
was awful. And I bought millions of these stupid
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah. Yeah, you're liking this. I'll freeze your
Yeah,
ass
got ice.
eventually,
Back
Mike.
to my pencil in the hotel was just a temporary thing until I figure out the next step in my career. I'm not going to turn into them. Let's try another one. Which book was written by my homeboy, Cormac McCarthy?
Oh.
I don't fucking know.
Hmm.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Yo, somebody asked like an hour ago if your finishing tongs were like Acadian glasswork joints. Is that true?
Oh yeah.
Time's almost
Oh,
up.
yeah. Hell yeah. Shout out to the homie.
Yeah. He's the best.
Hell yeah.
Who picked this?
Technically, we have like some prizes from last week to roll over because I never heard from anybody who won
wanna
them
show you
because they
something.
obviously left. So I think we're in the position to give those away. I'm not 100%. I meant to talk to him earlier, but
Let's roll them bones.
I know he
Roll as
gave me a
much as you
shirt and a
want to
hat
add
to
to
give
your
away.
score.
Tubing
I'll
last
kill the
week.
player
Like,
with the lowest score.
it was
But
crazy.
go over 21 and you die instead.
What?
And don't forget,
Dang.
if they roll a skull, that adds 1 to everyone's score.
Okay.
All right, here we go. I rolled.
Honestly, it's mostly just an excuse to use these cool
Ooh.
skull
What am I trying to
dice.
do?
Not go over 21.
Oh. All right, I think
And the
I'm good.
skull adds to everybody.
Oh shit! All right.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna stop
Mike's
right
dead.
there. I'm good. Damn. You,
Oh.
Nope. I did it. I did it.
Busted.
Oh yeah.
One of the most
Wow.
dangerous advice.
Chaka didn't go
Yeah.
over. Just
Loving this game.
Blackjack.
Feeling a little cold, Carl? Or something.
Aw.
Iced.
Let's keep moving.
Oh boy.
What has less than a day to reproduce before they die?
Ephemoptera.
Getting carried away. I'm picturing
That's the
you
Latin.
like,
That's their Latin name, by the way. If anybody knows Ephemoptera, that's their Latin name, and I've given you the answer.
Huh.
But don't Google that shit.
I think I was right.
Christian, you got to integrate this into like your pickup lines too. You know, like, girl, you know I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you the North Pole. Or, you know, it's like,
Oh,
Don't like
Jesus.
seeing that.
I'm gonna
Oh
say
my
maybe
God.
save that one
Okay,
for
alright.
not the
all right, I'm
first.
sorry. I'm sorry, everyone.
Oh, no, I'm gonna use that. That's a good one.
Oh, this one I know too.
What?
Oh.
If anybody watched the Champs episode from a few
Yeah,
years ago,
that's
you
true.
would know this answer too.
Jeez.
Down in Fraggle Rock.
Yep, that is true. Who was it? Hex Glass and Rob Morrison did an amazing Fraggle Rock setup rig thing. It was amazing.
Oh.
Functional
yeah.
crane, all sorts of cool shit. All the characters done by Rob. You know the deal. It was awesome.
Oh, that's sick.
Rob did an amazing piece too for the Masters back in the day with like the Scream or whatever, or maybe
Well,
even
that's
in
no
the summer.
fun.
It was
Oh,
so good.
really?
It was so
Yeah.
beautiful, man. It
Well,
was like an
this is
installation
fun,
with like
but I
all
need
the
it to
elements in
end.
the painting.
Time
Like
to
some
get
of them were like
serious.
vertical, some of them were pushing back. It was fucking really cool. I can't describe it
You've
properly.
been very resilient, but
Damn.
only one of you can survive
Guess
this
who will
game.
die and win money?
I hope you can hold your breath.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Only one of
Oh,
these
no.
keys will open the lock
Oh, this
to your
reminds me of that
tank.
show I was binge watching this week.
Pick the right key before you drown.
Oh, man, I don't know, yo. That key looks like all Zelda to me. I'm taking that shit. No? Alright, I fucked up. We're dead.
I love how this combines the tension of impending death with the tedium.
Yeah, motherfucker!
Oh, damn.
Oh, I just remembered that I have oxygen tanks in storage. Sorry.
Oxygen tanks. Nice. He said he just remembered he has oxygen tanks in storage.
You've
Whoa,
made
what's
it so
happening?
far, but can you escape?
Uh-oh.
I'm going to give you a category.
I'm way out ahead. What?
Locations in Game of Thrones. Tap each answer.
Well,
Let's
this
see
is
the
for all
right
you
answers.
people that actually watch Game of Thrones.
Man,
Yeah.
Forward one space for each correct answer.
I just went way out of the lead, too.
Just remembered I've got a whole
You're a little
long
bit closer to
series that I
escaping.
could be binge
Oh,
watching
wait.
here.
Did
Yeah,
you think
I'm a
it was
fucking
going to be
nerd. You're not
just
getting me on
you?
Game of Thrones questions.
Aw, that's cute. If a ghost catches up with you, they will steal your life force. Then they can escape and win the game.
Alright, I'm trying to
Here's
win the sticker pack
everyone's
from Mike
next
Mason.
question. And
Galaxies,
they get a
eh?
third chance to help them
What?
catch up to you.
Uh-huh.
If they named a galaxy after Citibank, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. This is too... The billionaires have
Time's
gone too
almost
far.
up.
Right? Corporate sponsorship at its finest.
Yeah.
Heart in the
Damn.
Galaxy?
I done goofed.
Hmm.
Carl's gaining on me. This is crazy.
Roman numerals.
What?
Mm-hmm. Can you guess more than one? You can, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can.
I don't know what the fucking Roman numeral is, man. I took...
Seriously? You gotta go way back to like first grade for this.
No, actually, I got it right. I was like, neither of these are whatever the fuck that is.
That's 100.
Monogamous animals.
Oh.
You know dolphins be having crazy orgies and shit? Hell nah.
Yeah.
We'll find out here shortly.
Passing around pufferfish getting high. Dolphins are wild.
Oh, shit.
Dolphins are wild.
Damn, dude.
Don't fall
Christian's
behind.
gaining on me. This is bullshit.
Keep it up.
It's only
Ooh.
darkness.
Some homies just bit the dust. What?
People who have walked on the moon.
Uh-huh. Did anybody really walk on
Time
there?
is almost up.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
that's a tough one. I feel like none of them have. Oh shit.
You are
Come
but
on, let's
shadows
do this.
now. Kubler-Ross
You know,
lies
Will would have been
dangerously
like, space questions, Kingdom's just coming.
I got it. I got one.
Boom.
Damn, dude, you gaining on me, player.
Yep. Yep.
Watch out, Mike. The
Watch out.
Iceman's coming.
Yeah.
This is Mike's question right here.
Yeah, I have the food taste of a 9-year-old. I've been cleaning out these cheese ramens at fucking the grocery store.
Oh my god.
I know, man. I'm like
Cheese ramen?
It's
Yeah,
69
man.
cents for like basically mac and cheese.
Well,
with
it's,
ramen.
That's pretty awesome.
yeah. Well, they're like yakisoba, you know?
Yeah, okay.
But it's
Nice.
got a cheese thing. Like I joke with Carrie, I was like, yeah, I'm competing with like the local fucking elementary kids for these things. God damn it, dude! How does it keep letting you get ahead when I'm picked?
Yeah.
How does it let you gain
Yeah.
on me? I got everything right too. We both scored the same.
Maybe
I
the
love my
audience is
French sauces,
influencing it.
bro.
All right, what is
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
Hogwarts
Oh,
first.
oh,
Carrie,
oh.
you gotta help me here.
Got this. I can't tell you though, because then everybody would hear it. So.
Damn it, Carrie. Where were you when I needed you? Damn it. Ah, I can't get in because I fucked up somehow. What? Green ass motherfucker.
Uh-oh.
Why did I die? What the fuck's going on here?
Chaka just took your life.
This is bullshit.
I'm gonna say yes. Golf is an important life lesson, you know, because going to business and you need to know how to golf.
Yeah.
Diplomacy is not, though.
It's over,
apparently.
player. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh.
See, I was a Boy Scout, man. I have like 80 merit
it's
badges.
not.
You wouldn't believe.
God damn.
That's right. That's right. Good game, though. Good game. But I definitely
Good
won.
game.
No, I'm just playing.
game.
Mike wins twisted game. This is true. All right, so anybody who is in the audience that really, really wants to play this time, you need to get on it here and get your room code in.
Get your room
so
code
this
in.
is
Let's
where
do this.
you
All right.
start over.
Now, I won, but Christian, you were in second place. So I'm going to get you a sticker pack.
Good shit.
Yeah. So you won
Appreciate
the first
that,
pack.
man.
All right, so new room code for those of you that want to play is OXUJ. Get over to Jackbox TV. Put that room code in there.
Be right back.
I'm gonna wait for what I do is I wait for anybody else that wants to join, and then I'll join in the audience, and me and the audience play together. But if you guys want to play, get in that room code now. Nice. And now it's time to join the audience. So OXUJ, get in the audience with me. Let's see if we can't. And I don't know if that's a possibility. So glad you're hanging out, Chaka. This is good. Giving Mike a run for his money here.
Yeah.
Icing people up. I love it that they've got the little ice theme here.
All right. Is everybody in? Let's do this. Here we go.
I think so.
The local residents familiar with the abandoned building's history know it simply as the Murder Hotel.
Crashing into another car, and then another car went ahead and crashed. The infamous hotel was run by a mysterious family for several generations until close at the dock. In unrelated news, the trivia murder party killer is still on the
Murder
loose.
memories. Drips, I saw you mention you were owed a sticker pack or something. Hit me up. I just sent a bunch of those out like a few days ago. So
This
maybe
is
it's
your
on the
wake-up
way,
call.
maybe not. I
Prepare
don't know.
to die.
Just drop me a line.
Welcome to Trivia Murder Party. Your free spa weekend was a lie, luring you into this deadly trivia game. Only one of you will survive. Anyway, we know you have many choices for your murder hotel needs, and we're grateful you chose us. Okay, first question.
The
In the
characters are
nursery
so
rhyme,
funny.
Where does Mary's annoying little lamb follow her to?
Oh, Mary's annoying little lamb?
Use your device to answer the question.
Damn. I don't remember this shit.
Yeah, I only remember the beginning. I just know she had a little lamb.
It was white as snow, yeah. Everywhere
Man,
that
everybody
Mary
went to church back in the day. I'm going with that shit.
Mary went, everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. That's all I got.
Followed her to church.
Almost out of time.
Church one day, church one day, church one day. Follow her to church one day.
Could be school.
And the correct answer
School's
is...
a good one too, yeah.
Who got the question
Oh,
right?
school.
Nice.
The rest of you, time for consequences.
Uh-oh.
Housekeeping! We're at room 105. Pigs! You're going to drop down
Noon.
this board and try to
Right,
avoid the death
The noon, you're gonna
zones.
die.
Someone needs to pick which slots
If you
are
don't,
death
then,
zones.
you know, that's good too, but...
Go ahead, everyone else.
The loser
Choose a
gets
slot
pegged.
to make it no
So I'm like,
bueno. Okay. Let the games begin.
This is a tough one.
Pick a spot to drop from.
Mm.
I made this board in shop class.
Yeah.
Oh. Nino. Wrong
Don't
guess.
mind me.
Good job,
Gravity.
Noon. Way to beat my death sentence.
Yeah. Nino's getting pegged.
In only the best way. Kill bonus.
Surprise!
Go
Everyone
RW.
who dies in this hotel turns into a ghost. Keep playing and you just might steal someone else's life force and win the game. Oh, also, there's an audience in the game. If they survive, you die.
7-10.
Hot tip.
Right?
Join
Go
the audience
audience.
at any time.
All dead to that.
Let's keep moving. Whose first name is John?
What?
Ah,
Oh, definitely John K. Rowling.
yes.
Damn. That's a good one. I don't know. Could be anybody.
Who picked this?
Nope, not me. I ain't winning
Yeah.
this one.
The rest of you, follow me. Bonjour! Welcome back to the killing room. This is my tattoo parlor. Create a new tattoo on my back by drawing on your device. Harder.
Well, I wonder what this is going to be. It's either a torture
Yeah.
or this.
Yeah. Or a torch penis.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Or a bong, right. It's got to be a bong.
Yep. It's like a beer.
Oh, God.
What a waste of my time. Time for consequences.
All right. Somehow my torch worked.
Even
It's
chat
so
says give him
weird.
a
I
give him a
love
tramp
having
stamp.
ghost players in this game, but all of the other ghosts in this hotel
Of a Beth
scare the
torch.
crap out of
I have an
me.
amazing
Like, for real.
meme that
I've
or
definitely
Photoshop
peed
that I made
myself.
back in the day. Somebody got a Bethlehem
Let's
tat,
try another one.
and I was like,
What's the address
Yeah,
that
no, I'm
Dory
gonna,
obsessively repeats in the movie
Photoshop
Finding
that.
Nemo?
"Where is it?"
Gotta get a Joe Exotic tat.
Oh
Right,
god.
I know. Hell yeah. What is this shit?
Oh my.
I'm pretty sure I fucked that up because the last one was funnier.
How many times did you and Hannah watch Dora? Finding Nemo.
I think I watched Finding Nemo like twice.
Yeah, I don't even know if I watched it twice.
Right?
I didn't realize that Dora obsessively repeats an address.
The rest of you who are still alive.
I did think Wallaby sounded pretty fun. The Wallaby Way. Alliterative.
Oh, hey, more dice. Don't worry. This
You guys
one's
like my
real
new tat?
straightforward. The player who rolls the highest will die. But we've got some help to make this more interesting. You have an extra die that you can give to whoever you want to make their odds worse.
What? Oh. What? You bastards.
The point is to gang up on another player. Have you learned nothing from me? Roll them. The player with the
6
highest
fucking
total.
dice, goddamn. Fucking A.
Someone's feeling
Whoa.
What?
Just got iced, bro.
How could y'all do this to me?
Nice.
We're here. When one player is left alive, we'll go to the final round. Next question.
It's close to
According to
posting a GIF
NASA,
earlier
what are
today.
raindrops actually shaped like?
Ice, baby.
It's always a good one.
Right? You probably never hear that one.
Yeah, of course.
Buns,
There's another Will question, man. Where's your homie when you need him?
Time's running out.
out playing planes.
Airdropping pictures of the moon.
This.
It was buns.
What?
It's time.
That is so weird.
It is, right?
It's
Not
math.
accounting for
One of
gravity,
my
I guess.
least requested minigames. Do as much math as you can before time runs out.
Ooh.
Everyone else will
Good
be
at
playing
math.
along.
All right,
If
here we
any
go.
of them do better than you, you'll die.
Uh-oh.
All right.
No pressure, though.
Let's go. Nothing more fun than watching someone do basic math. This is pretty much the end of the time. I guess you're not quite good enough at math.
Bam.
Ooh.
All right, I'm back in the game, baby. Wait, no, I'm not. All right,
Aw.
I'm just.
No, we're close.
Let's keep moving. Where is Amsterdam not?
Oh, come on. Stoners gotta know this shit.
Yeah. They picked the wrong crowd for this dumbass question, man. Most of
Oh,
us
wait,
have been there
where's-
many times before America turned into Amsterdam.
Wait a minute now.
Right.
Where's Amsterdam not? Oh.
Now I just
Oh,
have to drive
shit.
7 hours.
There's one crucial word in that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only a ghost got it wrong. I'll have to kill my writers. Let's try another one. Where's SpongeBob SquarePants employed?
Oh man, this is easy.
Hmm. Oh, is it?
I just know this from seeing SpongeBob memes.
Oh, really? Sure. Sure, Christian.
Yeah, I totally don't watch the show or anything.
Time to stop. Who picked this.
Yeah, crusty crab.
Damn.
Everyone again?
I didn't know
Yeah,
you
very
worked
good.
there.
Listen,
I thought you just liked it.
it's magic time. Pick a space inside the box to hide. I would say don't get too comfortable, but I feel like that's obvious.
Watch out, the sword's gonna get you.
Now I'm gonna need some volunteers. Volunteers get 1 sword. On your device, choose a row or a column to run your sword through.
Stab you fools.
I guess it's less magic and more stabbing.
Come on, stabby stab.
Magic!
Yeah.
That's gotta hurt.
Damn. Somebody did a good job.
And McName, I guess.
Damn, Hanun's
One
gonna
of
add to
still
his
alive.
collection of like 800 sticker
Know what
packs.
that
It's one of my homies, man. He gets the subscription packs. And
Glad to see you're the one to
man,
make it
he's
here
won a
alive.
lot lately,
Or will you be
and
the
even
one
on the
to escape?
Instagram, on the Glass Central Instagram.
I'm going to give you a category.
Damn,
He's got some
bad.
hats.
Anything could happen.
Got some hats coming to him.
Tap each
He just
answer
ordered
that
some
fits
off
the
my site.
category, and
Oh,
then
that's
press
awesome.
submit.
Aw,
Yeah.
my boy.
Programming languages, huh?
I didn't even get to
Let's
shoot
see
you
the right
from
answer.
the game.
I know, right? Who gets to
You
choose this? I
advance 1
didn't.
space for every correct
Just
answer.
Hanoon? This is a Hanoon only question.
You're on your way to escaping. Oh wait, did you think it was going to be just you? Aw, that's cute. If a ghost catches you, they'll steal your life force. Then they can try to escape and win the game. Here's everyone's next question. And they get a 3rd chance to help them catch up to you. Time is almost up. I don't know if you can outrun those ghosts. Caffeinated beverages.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Oh shit! I thought carbonated. I'm fucking up. Fucking up.
Pretty sure there's a... Yeah,
Damn,
exactly.
I'm out of the game, and they're about to kill me.
Yeah.
Love stories where they don't end up together.
Damn, I don't give a shit about none of these.
Not a love story type of guy.
I don't know, man. Shit. Did they all? What? None of them? Ah. All right, this is it for you, boy.
Here comes trouble.
Oh damn!
Here comes the darkness.
How the
Darkly
mighty have
dark
fallen.
villains. Time is almost up.
You just got snuffed, baby?
I'm out the game. I'm fucked up.
Oh, Angry Smurf is dead too.
I don't know any of these. I'm glad I'm not playing this round.
Lights out for you. Numbers that divide into 54.
Quick math. Quick math.
I'm dead, so it doesn't matter.
No. I'm gonna say that one.
It's too late for me.
Quick / intuitive math. Yes! It did it.
Are you in this game, baby?
That
I'm
ghost
an
can smell
audience
your
member.
life force.
We gotta hold our weight.
Dungeons and Dragons abilities.
Oh, I remember this. Yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Did you play Dungeons and Dragons when you were a kid?
Me and the neighbors
I-
would sometimes, but that's just boring.
I never played it.
Gotta like make
The
sure.
tables have turned. Common varieties of fig.
No offense to our D&D homies out there.
None
Time is
taken.
almost up. Another life force swap. Look out, audience. The end is upon you. Kama Sutra chapters.
Ooh. Well. Hugging doesn't really seem that Kama Sutra-ish, but could be wrong.
It's just what I like to do, baby. God.
Oh, there's a whole chapter on Joe and that other dude.
Oh great, the darkness might eat my entire audience. IKEA products.
Oh man, I don't shop at IKEA.
Right? I just eat at the cafeteria. Bounce.
What?
Jesus.
That doesn't sound very IKEA-ish.
Enjoy oblivion.
No,
in
it doesn't.
darkness.
Always
Not
got all
so
the weird
fast.
letters.
If
I
you want
like
to break
that
through that
cone
barrier,
pattern on
you'll
that
need a
door
perfect
thing.
answer to this question.
You like that, huh?
Yeah, that speaks to me.
And that includes the third answer choice now, too.
Ooh, what? Look at how
Baby mama.
Time is almost up.
BM.
That was just bridesmaids. It's weird.
Oh shit!
Oh,
My boy.
Oh,
crushed
he
it,
did
dude.
it.
Very good.
Crushed it.
Yeah, congrats,
Boom.
homie. You did it.
Exited the room.
All right, I think we should play a different Kazame.
I'm gonna tap out, you guys.
All right,
Alright.
homie. Yeah, let me throw you on up, dog. Hey,
Chaka.
thank you so
Thanks for-
much for joining us, man. I really
Peace out.
really do appreciate it, man. Let me throw you back up. Yeah, dude, thank you.
Oh,
That
yeah.
demo was critical. And you added so much to it by being here with us, man. Thank you. Much love,
Thank you
homie.
so much, guys.
Yeah, until
Yeah.
we cross paths again. Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Awesome. Take care.
All
Have a
right.
good
Hell yeah. Peace.
Peace.
All right. What should we do? We could go back to some of these games. A joke boat. Let's play the rap game.
Oh, okay.
Where's the
Yeah.
rap game? Yeah, Carrie loves the rap game. So is it, can we play the rap game?
Hey, rappers.
Yeah.
Get on in here.
All right, here we go. This is good. Hey.
You don't have to be super good at rhyming, but it helps. It's kind of
Sorry, guys.
like a Mad Libs type of situation. Rap battles. So if you consider yourself somewhat funny, because I can't think of the word that I wanted to say. All right, Jackbox.tv. Harold's in. And the room code is going to be a little bit different this time. ZV.
Yo, what are all you robots doing here?
GZ. It's going to be your room code.
Oh yeah. Who's ready to rap?
So yeah, let's get in there, my rappers. Oh, Hanoon's down. Or is it eight slots open? Is that what that is?
Nice.
Oh yeah.
My boys.
All right, and I think you can still join in the audience with me
Just give 'em a
because we need people to vote for the best rappa. Oh, this is gonna be
Doors
fun.
open in 3,
I'm so excited.
1.
Having a hard time hiding it. And I know.
Check it out. You know it's Shadow Master
I want
MC.
to.
We got a lot of, let's say, interesting cats up in here tonight. Okay, it's your turn, Rach. I gotta figure out what's going on with all these robots.
All right, I can do this. Here's how you do it. We'll ask you for a word or a phrase. We'll use it to complete line 1 of your rap. You then write a line that rhymes with it. We do that about 2 times and you have your 4-line verse. We hear him back and we vote on that winner, which honestly you all are. Well, Shadow?
Yo, it look like we stuck with the robots. Get your words together. Time to get it started. Time to get them lyrics down. I need you to write a word or a phrase, then an entire line that rhymes with the one that we give back to you. You need help? Just use the suggestion button on your device.
Game volume up, please.
As loud as it's gonna get.
All right. Anybody in the audience, we can destroy shit by pressing those buttons. We get news in the ticker. Call the train.
Got about a minute left.
You know you can use right for me to have us fill in your line, right? Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
Damn it! Oh no!
Here's the
Ah, I was
for
finishing
round
that
one.
line out. It didn't
Check
let
it
me
out,
get
all
some.
my hip-hop
Damn
heads.
it!
We got the first 2 robot
This is
battle
whack as
rappers
hell.
ready to go.
I had the
So
best
let's get it
line.
in.
It's the hardest
Remember
disc.
to
I
hit
can't
those
believe it.
voting buttons during the rhyme. We need to
Damn
know
it.
if it's
Class
hot
X, you're
or
lucky,
not.
because.
All right, here we go.
My raps are so furious they caused a hurricane. Heat like a GPT python to your brain. I plant seeds of rhythm that grow into trees.
And when I'm
Set
with
the
your
atmosphere
girl,
vision.
put that bitch on the knees. Okay, I'm just saying that's what I was typing, but
I'm
then it
just
got
saying
fucked.
no to
Didn't let
that
me
rap.
submit it.
Come on now, you gotta answer that. Where your strength at in your words?
Ooh.
I'm capital P pretty like the capital C cheese. Permission cheese top price.
Oh God.
I got to
yeah.
slow down, I'm getting too director. In bed.
I may actually have this.
Okay, word, cool, that's dope. Now let's keep it moving. Right now is the time to vote, so start clicking that button.
Oh my.
Yeah. Come on now. You know where? Vote for your boy. A vote for
forget to
Mike is a
vote?
vote for America. Yeah. All right, my dogs.
Well, all right now, you're our winner. Congratulations.
Where my MC's at, come on and get down. Let's get it started.
You you see my face on the cover of the source. I see you salty but ain't got no remorse. I swag when the sun rises and when it bows. I am an early riser, so I milk the cows.
All right.
Murray bringing some heat.
Major boy!
Did you hear what they just said?
Damn.
You gonna let them get away with that?
I keep success in my pocket next to my lighter. Grab some spinach, calls him a fighter. My brain's so big my head's about to boil. Leave all day haters in soil.
Okay.
Thank y'all. Let's keep moving. All right, y'all, it's voting time. Let's make it happen.
I don't know. It's a tough one there. You both did great.
Time to vote. And now we got our winner. Nice job, kiddo. Where my next 2 robots at? Let's do this, y'all.
Excuse me while I turn at the honk. We stepping out of up to bonk. Welcome to class of the Pacific. In China smoking get the dip.
Okay.
Check. That was dope. Just hope you ain't reached your peak. Now you know you gotta come back after that.
I make new rules like a modern Thomas Jefferson. My rhymes have no rhyme, so instant here yes and out. I swim in jewels and bathe in diamonds. I have brilliant strategy, but it's a secret.
Well.
That was dopeness. Hope you ain't used all your lyrics. Yo, check it out. Now it's time to use your devices to vote on who brought it stronger. Let's get those votes in expeditiously.
Got to give it up for McName here.
Yeah.
Surprisingly close.
Well, Shed Savage me the secret, so.
Congratulations!
You know what it is. It's the next matchup.
All right.
I'm not one for chit-chat, I like to punch. Not call her mom back after taking her to a really not call me cantankerous. I be him underscore for what's the smell.
Oh, well.
Damn.
Cold. Thanks.
Damn.
Yeah.
Personal attacks going on here.
This is personal.
I've got mad knowledge. I'm a real caterpillar. Smokes.
Whoa.
I drive to the hoop like a boss. So like Chaka.
all right. Got played to the crowd.
First time out, straight slaying. I hope you can keep that up. Ding, ding, the bell has rang. Vote to see who was the dopest MC.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but RW was just over the top brutal on that one. It's too mean. I'm gonna remember that if we end up in a face-off here at the end.
You gotta get them votes in.
I'm not taking my mom out to no lunch and not calling her back. What the fuck?
Okay,
Ding,
good job,
ding.
good job.
Oh,
We
look,
got
he's
your
even
winner.
a phone and shit,
Hey,
so
man,
like
come
makes
on, watch
sense.
where you step.
It's even
Okay,
worse he
everybody,
didn't call her
round
back.
one is done. Let's move on to the next round. Now let's check out the scoreboard.
What? Damn, Murray.
All right, y'all, writing time. Follow the instructions on your device.
We're gonna blow up that building. Destroy the dumpster booze, please, Center. Already blowing up cars in the street.
minute left. Go, 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 go.
You still can't think of anything? You can choose right for me, but you might not like what we give you. Yo, we ain't got all day.
Yeah, I think there is like a 30-second lag time. So when she says you got a minute left, you got like 15 seconds.
Damn it! This motherfucker cheated me again.
Here's the undercard and main event for round 2. Better get some of that money.
Damn it!
All right, first
Going
battle.
against RW
Let's
is
get it
coming
in.
too hard. Who knows what party cruel thing he's gonna say?
You should run away and join the Tigers. I have a friend who's looking to hire. If you were on TV
Joe
using
Exotic?
Joe Exotic. Mother always said I'd be
Yeah! That's fire. Called it.
Yeah, that was great. You're a nice robot. All right, you're up. Get ready.
My verses are curses, they'll put you Mike's room. Go learn on the house.
Oh, wow.
I'm the top dog, you're just a mice. Go cut the mill and take a slice.
Yo, time's a wasting. Let's keep it moving. All right, now it's time for you to use your devices and vote.
Dude playing in the crowd again. Gotta love it.
Hit the voting button. Pick somebody. Everybody voted, and we got our winner. Congratulations, yo. I need my next 2 MCs to step up here. You ready to go?
There we go.
I'm feeling okay, because you look a bit fat. This is a cry for help. I'm a grandmaster playing you like hopscotch. Balance from one to the next sitting on your couch.
Get on the quarantine exercise program is what I'm hearing.
Let's keep it moving. You know you gotta answer that. Put some weights on them muscles and get them words out.
I can't think of anyone sweeter. Your mom's ass, it was nice to meet her. This will end my dream just like the past Smurf. I stole Smurfer from his turn.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now we gotta move on. The battle is over. It's time for you to pick up your devices and vote. Voting time, right now.
Cold.
We got our winner. Congratulations.
Where my 2 MCs at? Let's go.
Thick as hell.
Heads up, you're standing under a Herbert Arnold. Skills leave you stone like marble. Serving you up like a piece of cake. So I'll just leave my resume and wait for your call.
Okay.
That was okay. Now let's keep it moving. Next MC.
I'll make you cower like a little mouse. Tie your bitch up, then set fire to your house. With some piece of paper set on your chest. I don't play around. Always wear a vest so I don't rest.
Amazing work. Please don't cut us.
Okay, now it's over. Who's the dopest rapper? Who's the wackest cat?
You gotta be so mean, the wackest cat. Hey, all you whack cats and kittens out there.
Let's get those votes in.
You're the wacky.
Ouch.
Congratulations, we got our winner. All right, next 2 robots, let's go.
Better take a seat, you're looking scoos. I'm gonna take your girl to a nice brunch. I don't mince words, so let me cut to the red wood. I can't rhyme, but wait till the swimsuit contest.
Oh, God.
Okay,
alright, thanks. Now we gotta move on.
Your turn. Come on down.
We need the version of this where it's all just distance on Red Max.
Look in my eyes and I'll turn you to Kitty. WH. I'm French champagne, you're a bottle of Hennessy. Let's get together and see what these feelings do.
Is he coming on to the other robot? What happened there?
I'm loving it.
Time to vote, y'all. Who brought it and who didn't?
Maybe.
Gonna rub his controller things on the speakers.
Let's get those votes in expeditiously.
Damn. Surprising result.
Here's your winner. Congratulations, Shorty.
Oh,
Good
boy.
job.
Yeah, see, it kind of looks like he's rubbing
All
his
right, y'all.
nipples or something.
That's the end of round 2.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and check the scores.
Damn, I'm not rapping very hard.
Same drill as before.
It's all right,
You
baby. We all
dig
gotta have
deep
down
into your
days.
brain and pull them lyrics out.
I'm really trying to blow this building up.
Got about a minute left.
You know you can use rhyme for me to have us fill in your line.
Bam! All right, finally.
Sometime today would be good.
Finally.
And here are the final matchups.
That main event
No,
is going
you
to
could
be
just cheat and let us do it
All right,
for
you
you.
look like you ready. Come on, let's get it. Let's hear it.
After this MC. Sorry, Glass X.
Go
This is
down
about to
in
be
one
brutal.
hit, cashing. Off off. While I'm smoking on my 20 and think I can't listen to when it makes me get mad. Does anyone else smell burnt toast?
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry for how bad, how brutal this is about to be.
It's time for you to come back. Show them your strength.
It's hard not to choke when your rhymes are this thick. Gave it to your girl while moving in the
Whoa.
Understand this, you're nothing but a crack. Shoot you down like a fiend sporting tracks.
That was okay. Wasn't the best I heard, but it wasn't the worst either.
That was cold.
The battle is now
Plastics crossing his legs
officially
back there.
over. Use your devices and figure out who it is that was the dopest MC. Time to vote.
All right. Come back.
Yeah, RW game book there.
Now it's time for the next couple of MCs to get down.
Yeah.
Why don't you leave? Go back to the Jamaica. We got coconuts and kilns. I'm making you cry like a little kitty cat. Using existing lines is better for the environment.
That was kind of cool. I know you can do better than that, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's your turn now.
That was pretty cool.
You could write a book called How to Strike. But you can't even make a spoon pipe.
Whoa.
Softer than molten barley. I'll cook for your girl who sent her home with leftovers talk.
We're gonna keep our lives.
Damn.
All right,
Yeah.
now you got to use your devices to find out who gonna make it and who gonna get slayed.
That was brutal. That was cold. That was cold. I'll be right back. I'm so cold. I got to take a break.
You gotta
Cold,
get
I
them
need a
votes
beer.
in.
The cool parts about this game is like after it's over, you can go and you can download your raps. You
Next
can post
match,
them to social
next
medias and
battle.
stuff. If you wanted to.
How sad you look in your little punty hoodie. Yeah, I just made that word up. What you gonna do to me? We could be tight if your skills weren't so crap. If anybody has any extra rhymes, could I use them?
All right, I see the swag.
Cry for
grab
help.
the mic.
Oh, I missed the rhyme. Was it brutal?
Nobody likes you. Your rhymes are shitty.
Sure.
Come to my house, you will find you biggie. You're boring me like a worn-out duck. Hit you with my red max in a sock.
Okay, okay. Another Red Max in there.
Part-time robot, thank you for not crushing anyone.
My Red Max.
Okay, y'all, now the battle is over. You gotta use your devices to vote. Hit the voting button, pick somebody. You got your winner. Let's move on, y'all. Here's the best of the best, y'all. Time to see who's really number one.
Talk to the hand cause my ears are jumped. Let's hop in the whip and get skunked. Go and tell your mama that you got played. Better yet, I did last night when I got played.
Okay, all right, that's cool. You got an answer for that? Come on now, you gotta come strong with it.
What's that? You got a fog in your head? Let me get out my 40 calories and let them make your head spread. That's the best you got. Thought
Calories?
you were happy. After hearing my raps, you're gonna feel crappy.
Okay.
All right, I see what you're working with. Check it. Tell me who was the whack cat, and then tell me who was the hotline. Voting time, right now.
what you're doing, you know how you're doing, and it's done. You won.
Good job, MCs. That was hot. But now we gotta see who won this. Alright, here's our winner. I hope you're gonna use some of your winnings to pay for all that damage you did. Check it out, y'all. This is Shadow Master MC. Glad y'all came out. Glad you enjoyed it. We out of here.
Well, all right, nickname Glass, man. Get at me, MikeMason@gmail.com with an address for that sticker pack. Y'all want to play one more game? What's up?
Yes.
You want to do this one again?
I kind of do, because I kind of want to.
Really? You want to do it? All right, we'll do it again.
I'll probably get my butt kicked, but.
Carrie's choice. Carrie's in on this.
Another big old robot. All right, come on.
Oh, Calix and the VIP.
She's in there. I told you, I'm anxious. Like, you gotta get, like, what, 2 or 3 games where I just sit in the audience, and then I'm ready to hop in. There's still, like, 47 people watching, so.
Now you're gonna get served up by Carrie.
Or Mike, because apparently we're the only 2 people playing, so. All right, Hanoon's back in. Uh-oh, RW's in. Watch out. Watch out. 2 more spaces. It's like 47 people watching. The 2 people gotta want to hop in.
Come on now. Come on now.
Go up against RW. He's gonna get you, you know. I don't know.
All right, 10 seconds.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Murray is right. They don't want that smoke. All right. I'm hitting that button.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Doors open. Oh, okay then. Doors open in 3.
Oh, 2 people got in right at the end there. Nice. Good stuff.
All right.
Yo, check it out. I love all my MCs, but y'all gotta back up. I'm not about to be a statistic down here. DJ Rach, tell them how the game plan is about to go down. Hey, yo, don't step on that.
I'll take over, I guess. Here's how you do it. We'll ask you for a word or a phrase. We'll use it to complete line 1 of your rap. You then write a line that rhymes with it. We do that about 2 times. And
Did we do this tutorial last time?
Yeah, I don't even have the skip option.
And we vote on that winner, which honestly you all are.
I'm the master.
Well, okay
yeah,
then.
we could skip it.
What's the word, Shadow?
All right.
Let them destroy the city. It'll be the robot's fault, not mine. It's time. Time to write. Get them lyrics together. Write a word or a phrase, then an entire line that rhymes with the one that we give back to you. Now you gotta do that twice, all right? Hit that suggestion button if you need it.
okay, you're about halfway through your writing time.
Following schools are closed.
You can't use right for me to have us fill in your line. Put a little pepper on it. Here's the draw. Check out who's facing off against who.
Oh, no.
Okay, check it out, y'all. We got our first two robot battlers ready to get it on. Are y'all ready? Y'all ready? Come on, let's do this. Remember, hit those voting buttons during the rhyme. We gotta know if it's dope or dog food.
Working my magic, like GTT Quadzilla. You can be the Red Max, cause I feel nice. My mouth is working like a robot cat. Spitting fire like a Hellcat.
You don't need to be thanked because you crushed it, but thank you.
Let's go, your turn.
I'm the best MC in all of Mom's bed. Go. Tell everyone what you saw here tonight. My raps were so strong they could make a monument like the twin rhymey. I did so good.
Remy, I did so good.
Let's move on. Time to pick somebody to vote for. Let's get those votes in. Did you forget to vote?
Wow. Yeah, I don't know about that either.
Shorty. That was pretty decent. Good job.
John's
Now,
got
my
ringers
next
in
two
the
battlers
audience.
are up and they ready to roll.
I got big plans, I'm a genius. Close your eyes and pretend this rhymes. I'm a thing of legend, a regular Einstein. I hope these rhymes will get easier.
Aww. They probably will.
Okay, word, cool. That's
Cool
dope.
breeze.
Now let's
I
keep it
hope.
moving. It's time
Right
for
there
you
with
to
you.
answer that one. Gotta come strong too.
Don't look now, I stole your torch. Took a nap in your bed while you were on the porch. Look at me now living the life of the rackest. Giving your girls backside the smackest.
Jesus.
That wasn't half bad. I gotta see a little
Smacking
bit
those
more, though.
asses.
Okay, y'all, now the battle is over. You gotta use your devices to vote. Let's get those votes in expeditiously.
Making cash.
Okay, there's your winner. It's time for our next battle. So we need the next two cats to step up and get down.
Why doesn't my robot rub their nipples?
When
What
I'm
nipples?
on my shoe that's lifting high. So why not fly with the real vibes? Getting stuff done like a total entity. Combine drops and dabs with me.
All right, I see your swag.
Your turn. Get ready.
I'm tenacious, like a dog. Papa on your bitch like a frog. I'm not the lyrics, me Nietzsche. Darkly not the fat, that's word to know.
All right, thanks. Now we gotta move on.
That's a
Ding,
tough one
ding,
now.
the
I
bell
don't
has
know.
rang. Vote to
Indeed.
see who
It's
was
a
the
toss-up.
dopest
I'm just gonna
MC.
move my mouse back and forth and then pick one without even looking.
Okay, alright. fair.
Voting time, right now.
I'm not looking forward to this next round. That's all I have to say.
Baby,
Good job, good job.
It's me and RW next, I think.
I know,
For
but
the last-
didn't you make
the
some
last
brutal
right.
rhymes
Biggest
about
toe I ever seen in my
stealing his bitch or something? Come on.
Check it out. I need my next
Yeah,
battle
no,
is
that
up and
doesn't
ready
sound
to
like
go.
me.
Star, here we go.
I'm set to rule, so send me the scuff. Hearing your rhymes makes me laugh.
Oh!
My dates show me
Oh,
off
you haven't
like
even heard me
Overwatch.
yet.
Banging your girl while drinking some scotch.
What?
All right. We heard that. Let's keep it moving. Now it's you.
I'll lock you down like mosaic glue.
Not much of a glass blower. I guess you could say I'm more of a glass knower.
That was fire,
I
baby.
like some kind of a fuck. Yeah, you can me. I don't give a cluck.
That was okay. Now let's keep it moving. All right. Now it's time for you to use your devices and vote. You got to get them votes in.
Nice, baby. Got him.
Damn.
That's what she's been waiting for all night. She really wants that sticker pack.
Good job, y'all. Good job. Let's check out those scores.
Yeah, you know me.
Oh, shit. All right.
Time to tell us why you think you all at. Follow those instructions on your device.
Oh my. Jesus.
Why you so quiet, Rach?
Just thinking on our new robot overlords.
What's there to think about? They're in charge. Ain't nothing we can do.
Do you think they'll implement a transparent system of government?
Ha! Probably not.
They were our last hope.
Bank of trust going down. Burn this shit to the ground. Destroy bull in a china shop.
Remember to use that right for me button if you coming up blank.
Bam. Oh, I'm calling this motherfucking train. Watch, this train's coming, y'all.
Oh yeah?
Bam.
Oh, there it goes.
You better get them fingers
Train. Oh, we just killed the distill in the front and shut it. Shop. Binge pipe.
Bye-bye, binge pipe. We're fucking you up together. Who's doing this?
Kinda
with me?
shop.
We got him. Look at this. Ah! So
Ah.
close.
Next round.
Here's the undercard and main event for round 2. Somebody better come get this money.
It's
Y'all
me
ready for the
versus
first
God.
battle? Let's get it in.
Tough matchup there.
It is.
Your rhymes are so whack they call you Pindo Fart. Compared to you, off the
Oh
charts.
my.
If you don't know, you better tonight. A wise person knows their limitations.
Thank y'all. Let's keep moving.
You're on deck. Let's go. Come on.
Let him have it down.
You couldn't touch me with a 10-foot bathroom pool while I'm sitting high and mighty dabbing like a fool. You're not fit to hold my shoelace, but I can show you how to rock stack like a bass.
Wow.
Got him.
All right, thank
Got
you.
him.
Thank you. Now we gotta move
Click
on.
clack.
All right, y'all, it's voting time.
Clickety
Let's make it
clack.
happen. Let's get those votes in.
Nice. Okay. Damn. Damn.
Ooh.
Canoon just about to
And our winner
jump in
is-
the
Rolling
lead.
it.
He's touching his nipples. Oh, God damn it.
Rubbing
The next two
controllers all over
robots,
the
come on
place.
down.
It hurts me to say it, but you're so shitty. Hit your mom from behind while
Wow.
grabbing her titties. I can't catch up, you're moving like a sloth. Unlike a light bulb and your girl is a moth.
RW.
RW's back,
Time to
baby. He's
waste
back.
it. Let's keep it moving. Yo, where the next bot at? Get your gears in gear.
I look great, you look like a funk. I hope this answer doesn't come off as computery. Word around town is that you got real tall. I didn't come here to make friends.
Oh my.
Okay, alright. Okay.
That was kind of cool. I know you can do better than that, though. Right now is the time to vote, so start clicking that button.
Gonna have to pick Cool Bees though, just to deny
Time
RW
to
some cash.
vote.
No, I'm just playing.
RW getting on me when he knew he was going to be up against me. I thank you for that.
Good job, good job. Congratulations. Hey, man,
that
please
was-
don't step on me. Where my next two robots at?
Uh-oh, uh-oh,
You're battling me? Well, bring it, my sheen. You say you got a week, well then do it like hey he. I'm clean as a surgeon. You're sloppy as a boo. When I got the COVID, if you're my hope, I hope it's the flu.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
All right, that's cool. All right, it's your turn.
If I had money, I wouldn't buy you my soul. I will give you all the knowledge I know. Maybe you'll understand when you're in it. When you come step to my mic, you'll become a true born sign.
All right, thanks. Appreciate you. Check it. Tell me who was the whack cat, and then tell me who was the hotline.
Can I pick Calixan as the winner and the Whack Cat? I don't know.
Hit the
I'm
voting
just playing,
button.
baby.
Pick somebody.
Fair enough.
All right, you see it. The numbers don't lie. Congratulations.
Congratulations, God, you win this
Next
round.
two robot battlers. Let's get it in.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
Here we go.
There's no happy ending. This isn't Cinderella. I've gathered you all here for a reason. Talk to the hand because the face won't boof it. I prefer actions to words, so I didn't write this.
Okay.
Okay, wasn't the best I heard.
I already
but
forgot
it
my
wasn't
lyrics,
the worst
so this
either.
will be a surprise
Grab
to
the
all of
mic,
us.
yo. It's on you.
Nice.
Your brain's a weak processor, it's running very rough. Trying to say something nice about you is tough.
Aw.
Freight trains coming right at your booty. Ride the stick like a tour of beauty.
Damn.
All right. I see what you're working with. The battle is over. It's time for you to pick up your devices and vote.
That was cold, that was cold. Give me
Let's get those
virtual
votes in
money.
expeditiously.
What?
God.
Who voted against me?
They're banned from Torch.
Voted, and this is what happened. Congratulations. Good battle, y'all. Good battle. Now let's check out the numbers. Let's see who's winning this right now.
Yeah.
You know the drill. It's the same thing as round 2.
Uh-oh.
About a minute left. Think and type.
Hitting the writer's block, remember to use that write for me button.
Okay.
Hey, slow motion. We're running out of time.
Guy Towers is going down. Oh, how would that help?
Oh my word! This
All right, I had to tone it down.
Check it out.
Don't want to be
Next
too cruel
time
to the
around,
name.
let's get it in.
Yeah,
y'all.
yeah, that's my excuse.
Afraid, just bring it, sister. Please welcome special guest, Auto Answer. Take a step back before the skeptical. I'm no hero. Heroes write their own lines.
Let's.
Aw.
Okay, word, cool. That's dope.
Movies just,
Now
like,
let's keep it
passed
moving.
out
Next
in the chair.
robot, grab the mic.
My
Mike
nickname
from
for
2
you
years
is
ago.
Real Cheeseburger. Mom's spaghetti. I'm done being nice, this ain't no day off. I'm not too lazy to ride, I'm just unmotivated.
Where'd everybody go?
All right, I see you, swag. Time to vote, y'all. Who brought it and who didn't?
That was a tough choice there.
You got your winner. Let's move on, y'all. Now it's time for the next matchup. Where my two battlers at?
Plug in my nose cause you smell like farts. Hearing
Jesus.
test. If this doesn't rhyme, your ears suck. Feel that pain? That's me kicking your cock. Rap like someone else is writing.
All right.
Okay, all right, that's cool. Yo, you gotta get that.
Step to me and you're gonna get boofed. Pirouette real quick and step away. I've got to be honest, you're a huge rat. That's a polite way to say you're a liar.
wanna destroy nothing.
Okay, now it's over. Who's the dopest rapper? Who's the wackest cat?
At least get points for teaching you vocabulary, right?
You did it, baby. You're a rapper. A weird one from France or something.
Did you forget to vote?
Okay, there's your winner.
I need my next two couple of MCs to step up.
Your game is ancient, like Donkey Kong. Got your mom riding hard on my big donkey dong. It's my time to inflict the dog.
Damn.
God be on your way, you'll be in my epilogue.
Donkey Kong.
All right,
Ancient,
thank you. Now we gotta move on. Where the next bot at? Grab the mic and get busy.
This game ain't over until I see you tripping. You're not through till you start. If I saw you online, I would swipe move. Come fly through your body to the...
All right, we heard that. Let's keep it moving. The battle is now officially over. Use your devices and figure out who it is that was the dopest MC.
It's the artist with the mustache does the clock scripting.
Let's get those votes in.
Yeah, God.
Congratulations, Shorty. That was pretty decent. Good job. Check it out. Final battle. Who's the last one standing?
Suckers everywhere imitating my golden and shiny like breed that you can only imitate or with Kespas. I'm messing you up, making you feel high. Soup is for people who hate food.
Right now, I'm about to go make some
Thank
soup.
y'all. Let's keep moving. You gotta get back to that one.
Cold. Top.
You don't have flow, it's
That's
no
too
like
funny.
you. Mix it with Sprite and shoot it in your bean. You smell like a bunch of rotting tacos. While your
Oh,
boys
wow.
stay fresh like avocados.
All right, thanks.
Oh, baby.
Now we gotta move on. Yo, check it out. Now it's time to use your devices to vote on who brought it stronger.
You guys are both hungry over there.
Yeah. That's funny.
You gotta get them votes in. All right, you see it. The numbers don't lie. Congratulations. Dope contest. Now let's see who won.
Come on, me.
And now we got
Right.
Here's your
Right,
money.
there you go.
Thanks for
Mike
all the
wins the
destruction
sticker pack.
you caused. Shadow Master is out. Ain't no room or space for this up in here.
I like the neon
Peace.
sign underneath you.
Right. All right. Did RW already win a sticker pack? If not, get at me, Doug. MikeMason@gmail.com. And I think that we're gonna wrap it right on up there. Oh, there's
I
Carrie.
think that's a good place to
Yeah.
wrap it.
Yeah. Yo, Carrie, tell him what it's about and how special it is that we all get to have this time together.
We really appreciate you all for joining us during this time of event cancellations and postponements. At least Torch Stock can bring it to you with guest artists and 3 hours of glassy and game goodness. And we really do appreciate you all for joining us. It's really a pleasure to hang out with you all and to see you all in chat. Thanks a bunch. We really appreciate it.
Hell yeah. And I'll wrap it up there. We got Pearl checking in to say goodnight. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in, making this party possible. And, you know, man, it's just so nice to hang out and have a laugh with the homies, you know, and maybe just forget about all this bullshit going on right now, and hopefully the world gets back to normal here sometime in the near future. But until then, man, I'll see y'all every damn Tuesday. And, you know, until, like, the internet infrastructure breaks down or whatever, and
that pussy over there.
whatever it'll be. That's right. Anyways, you guys, much love, homies. Really do appreciate y'all out there. Thanks to everybody who joined us and everybody who peeps this later. God forbid somebody's watching this in 5 years and watching us play random video games, but whatever. Hell yeah, I really do appreciate y'all. Have a great night, and hope y'all have a great rest of your week. Much love.